Yeah, we're ready.
Recording, I didn't hear the
We are.
recording in progress thing. We are? Okay. All right, welcome everyone to a regular town council meeting of the Mount Crested Butte Town Council. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. First is roll call.
Bobby. Here. Belita. Here. Roman.
Here.
Al.
Present.
Steve.
Here.
Bruce is absent and Mayor Kevin.
Yes. Next is correspondence. I don't see any in the packet. Is there any correspondence we're missing?
No. Right. Are any of you mind?
These are all from staff, I think.
Okay.
That are on their desk. So, okay, so no correspondence. Next is approval of the agenda. You all have tonight's agenda before you. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about our agenda? All right, hearing none. Next is public comment. Citizens may make comments on items not scheduled on the agenda. Per the Colorado Open Meetings Law, no council discussion or action will take place until a later date if necessary. You must sign in with the town clerk before speaking. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do you have anyone here in the audience for public comment?
We usually have a public comment related to the Crystal View Ridge. Shall we wait for that?
Yes, please. You'll have an opportunity during the public hearing. Anybody else for public comment? What about online via Zoom? Anyone for public comment? On the internet? Last call for public comment. All right, next is approval of the July 1st, 2025 regular town council meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the July first town council meeting minutes.
We have a motion from Belita and a second from Steve to approve the July 1st, 2025 regular town council meeting minutes. Any further discussion?
Steve.
Yes.
Al.
Same.
Roman.
Abstain.
Belita.
Yes.
Bobby.
Yes.
Mayor Kevin.
Yes. All right, next is Envision IT Solutions Services Agreement and Budget Approval. Marissa.
Hello, everyone. So you should have read and reviewed the memo that I wrote about Envision IT Solutions, and the services agreement. I can get into it just a little bit, but as you know, we had an RFP for new IT services, due to Greg's retiring. And I know that Kevin with Envision and Steve are actually attending virtually up there. But we went through our RFP and staff has noted the evaluation criteria that we used during the hiring process. And just felt that Envision really met our needs the best. Additionally, under contract fees, you will note that there is an increase in cost for our new IT service provider. So Emily is online as well, but she wrote in this little paragraph there about the expenditure account, and what that looks like. And then we have our staff recommendation. So we can go through this. We can go through if you guys have any questions about maybe the background of the process, or if there's questions about the contract, we kind of going forward there. If you have any questions or concerns.
Questions about this contract? Or about IT services in general?
I move that the town council, excuse me. I move to approve the contract with Envision IT Solutions.
So you
Yes.
just need to make sure, sorry, that we are authorizing the town manager to sign that contract as well.
The consent is
Expecting
ready
them
for five.
to allow the town manager to execute.
Bring a second. All right, so we have a motion from Roman and a second from Steve to approve the contract with Envision IT and authorize the town manager to execute the contract. Further discussion? Shannon?
Al.
Yes.
Yep.
Bobby. Lita,
Yes.
Roman.
Yes.
Mayor Kim.
Yes.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Steve, for attending tonight. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Welcome to the team.
Yes, Marissa will be in touch and we'll start scheduling the onboarding and we'll see you guys soon in person.
Thanks.
Great.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you. Bye.
All right, next is a public hearing on the preliminary PUD plan and preliminary subdivision plan for Crested Butte Ridge Development. And the application submitted by Jacob A. Rith from Law of the Rockies, representing owner applicant CB Ridge LLC. Before we get started with the public hearing part of this, anything from staff? Just checking. Okay, so we're gonna get right into the public hearing then. So today is Tuesday, July 15th, and the time is 6:07 PM. This is a public hearing for the preliminary PUD and preliminary subdivision plan applications for Crested Butte Ridge, submitted by Jacob A. With representing the owner applicant CB Ridge LLC. We're holding this public hearing in person and via Zoom. The following members of the Mount Crested Butte Town Council are in attendance: Bobby Sfera, Valita Scribner, Roman Kaloje, Alec Lindeman, Steve Morris, and myself, Nicholas Kippen. We're also joined by the following staff: Community Development Director Neil Starkeybaum and Shannon Hessler, Planner 2. So the reason we're having this hearing tonight, we're here to receive public comment regarding the preliminary PUD and preliminary subdivision plan applications for Crested Butte Ridge. Staff, was this public hearing properly noticed?
Yes, it was published in the Crested Butte News on June 26th. It's in the required location. The applicant sent certified mail public notices to required properties by the June, and I have provided copies of the certified mail receipts.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have one written comment in the packet. Have there been any others? Sometimes we get those late.
No.
Okay. All right, next is staff project introduction. So staff, do you have any presentation regarding the applications?
Yes, I have a short presentation. So today we are here for the subdivision and PUD preliminary plan for Crested Butte Ridge, which was formerly known as Nevada Ridge. The project, if you can see, is off. It's essentially right next to the west wall chairlift, if that helps you picture where it is, and it has some existing retaining walls. That helps you picture the site. It's currently zoned PUD, and this project is planning to replat the existing lots and subdivide a portion of tract C, which is that outline section up there, into 9 single-family lots in 2 phases. Everything will conform to single-family zoning standards. They're gonna currently on site, there are some retaining walls and some existing infrastructure. The north part of tract C is held in conservation easement by the Crested Butte Land Trust. And then there are some additional wetlands on site. So just as a little bit of a background to, this specific project and more about the process that this goes through. So in 2006, this was the Nevada Ridge PUD was approved, and it was 4 duplexes and 7 single family lots. So what they're proposing now is a lot less dense, less impact. It's 9 single family lots instead of 7 and 4 duplexes. In 2008, it was re-subdivided again into 8 single family lots. And then September of 2023, the Planning Commission approved the sketch plan for this iteration of the project, which was renamed Crested Butte Ridge. And then in October 2023, some of you that are on this board at that time approved the sketch plan for CB Ridge. And then June 4th of this year, the Planning Commission reviewed this preliminary plan that we're talking about today, and they recommended approval to the town council. And today is our town council review, and in the future, this will have to go back to the Planning Commission and back to this board for the review of the final plan. So there's a lot going on this site. And we can get into some questions about this with the applicant as they come up, but phase one of the project, is gonna be the lower half. And that's gonna be subdividing into 4 single-family lots, and then phase two will be the extension of the road and the additional lots. The north part of the tract contains around 5 acres of conservation easement, and again, that's held by the CV Land Trust. There's wetlands on site, kind of held down towards the road. There's skier easements existing currently above the retaining walls. And really importantly to this discussion probably is the San Moritz Trail, which runs right through the middle of that site and is a common skier, biker, hiker access point. The applicant has some great answers to that trail and maintaining that trail throughout the project. And then if there's any wetland disturbance to those wetlands on site, a wetland development permit will be required. So. The planning commission recommended that this board approve the CD Ridge PUD and subdivision plan. With the following conditions that will be met in submittal for final. So weed management plan, inclusion of the San Moritz user trail on the final plat. And then providing some additional visual and topographical depiction of all skier and all trail easements. That are located within tract C. Wetlands development permit compliance with the Mount CV Water and Sand, the Colorado Geologic Survey, and the fire district, and those recommendation letters were all included in your packet. And then submitting redesign phase 1 and phase 2 components of the road based on some comments from the fire district. And then revising a tiny bit of the PUD guide to clean up the language regarding height, maximum home size of 8,500 square feet, and having the project name depicted consistently throughout. So that last one is pretty, just cleaning up the PUD guide essentially. So nothing major between now and final was the recommendation. So, that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, next is presentation by the applicant. So on behalf of the applicant. Hello.
Hello.
I'm Jacob Whip.
Hi, Jacob.
So, a couple of things. First off, I appreciate everybody for taking their time and attention on this. I know, you guys have a lot on your agenda. I'm gonna try to be efficient, and respectful of that. So cutting kind of to the heart of what I think your questions will probably be, depending on how good my crystal ball is. I think the first one is about the, San Moritz Trail, which generated some comments, and I don't know if I can share my screen.
And, if you can join the Zoom,
I am.
oh, you're on there, yeah, so you should be able to.
Sweet. Okay. Great. So, if you guys can see that at all, let's see, let's make it big enough so you can see.
We do have this in our packet.
Yeah, and I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it and how much time they've had on it, but just a couple of things. The first is you may not have noticed. So this is actually from the plat for the original Nevada Ridge filing number 1. And it's got this tract A down here. Tract A is not part of the subdivision application.
Could you just tell us which appendix this would be, so we can bring it up simultaneously for the,
Yeah, I can tell you that.
great.
It's page 458 of the packet.
So the very last appendix? Okay. One,
Yeah, appendix J, trails.
okay,
Oh, I was actually looking, it's also included in public comment, so it's
Yeah.
in there twice perhaps.
There's a lot of this is in the 2 or 3 times, so. So, tract A is not part of the subdivision plat. That's actually owned by Summit now, is my understanding. The reason I'm showing this to you is because there's concerns about the San Moritz access. And one question was about whether they could use tract A. This reflects that there's a skier access easement. There's a skier access easement that was given to the resort many years ago as part of that. And so I think it's owned by Summit, subject to a ski resort skier access easement. And that continues through, you can see it kind of goes under the bridge over here where the bridge is supposed to have been built, but never was built. But we've incorporated that into our designs as well. So you can see here, what I'm showing you, I think it is in your packets, but it's really buried, so you may not have seen this one. But we've got that, this is kind of where the tract A is down here, even though it's not labeled. And we've got kind of the Summit ski in and ski out labeled, so you can see that. The San Moritz owners, some of them were concerned because the way we have identified their ski in and ski out is over here, where we're putting this trail easement for the San Moritz Trail, which I'll show you as well if you didn't see that on the additional submissions that were made, but we've actually got that on the plat now. But the idea is they could ski in there. Some owners expressed to me, this one owner expressed to me concern with the feasibility of that. He thought you'd have to be a really good skier to make it. And so his concern was whether it would work or not. And what he wanted to make sure he was able to do is ski here across tract A under the bridge and then come around right there and get onto that San Moritz Trail. And I know of no reason why that's not feasible, even though we're not showing that here. There's that skier access easement that was given in the past, and we're not doing anything to disturb that. He asked that I bring that to your attention, so I'm doing that because I think that addresses a lot of the concerns probably from San Moritz, which is what we're trying to do. So we're not doing anything to mess with that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make that access, that existing trail as part of the proposed, as you'll see it in your packets, San Moritz Trail is preserved within that easement, essentially where it's at. The only, minor changes on that easement location are to facilitate where the wetlands are located. So we don't have a trail going through wetlands and don't have an easement that extends for a trail into the wetlands. So it's pretty much the same exact place. I'm showing you now a second depiction, which I don't think is in your packets, but it came up during the prior meeting on this, which is where are we gonna put the phase 1 turnaround? So we hadn't submitted to you all a proposed turnaround for phase 1 because we got 2 phases. High level, the reason we have 2 phases is because the state of Colorado and the federal government haven't figured out how to do wetland permitting yet for this site. And so I can't guarantee when that's gonna be done. And you may see us again for an extension at some point in time on entitlements that we receive, because we come back and we say, it's been long enough that this is gonna expire, but we can't get the state to process this. The federal government says we won't. And so we can't proceed with anything that's gonna involve wetlands yet because we can't get a permit. Because the jurisdiction says we have authority and we just don't have the rules to give you a permit. Which is kind of where we're at now. So we got 2 phases. The first phase is not supposed to impact wetlands. And that's why we're doing it that way. And the turnaround is essentially where the existing turnaround is, and it will meet standards and specifications rather than being the spot that it is now. So it's the least impact, smallest way of doing it. And that's what we're gonna propose, and you'll see developed a little bit more in the final materials that are submitted to you. But I thought that I would share that with you in case there's any comment on that or thoughts regarding that. So one thing that hasn't come up yet and hasn't been discussed in a lot of detail, and talking with Crescent Butte Land Trust about the San Moritz Trail easement, they've requested that you guys take it, not them. So we had talked in the past about dedicating an easement to the Crescent Butte Land Trust for that kind of pedestrian / skier access. And they said it would be great if the town would take it. And so one of the questions frequently from the applicant for you all tonight is we'd like to talk about that because we're fine with that. If you're fine with that. And so in the final materials to be submitted would be the proposed kind of dedication for that. And the way that we're envisioning that to be straightforward is our only real big concern with this is it is at the base of these retaining walls that are gonna go in, and so we need to be able to shut down what would otherwise be a public access easement while we're doing construction on the lots above and during the retaining wall period. That's easy to write into a typical easement that I have with a private party. Because we have like normal easement agreements and I say, you know, we can shut this down while we're doing construction, stuff like that. Not normally how you do with the town. To be honest with you, normally you guys see dedications like on plats. And that's like all there is to it, right? Like it's yours, congratulations. And that's kind of how that works normally in dealing with the town. But in this context, we probably would propose an easement that has a little bit more specification because we do want to be able to shut it down so we don't run into any issues while we're doing construction. Obviously, we don't want that to be any longer than it has to be. And then the second part of it is just making sure that the use is essentially pedestrian, bicycle, and skier access. And so we would be specific as to that, which is not uncommon for, I think, an easement, probably for dedication to the town. So I think the other item that I want to make sure that we discussed or presented to you was the big picture of the geotech. I know that there's a lot of geotech materials in there. You also saw a lot of kind of, we can't do much more with this until final plan. But I think the big picture summary for purposes of tonight and my presentation to you is we've had the geotech looked at, had the engineers look at it. It's feasible, this project site is feasible. I think it'll be consistent with expectations to get at the required factors of safety. And we'll provide you with those details during the final plan part of all of this. And we did include with some of our trail designs, some pictures of what the soil nail wall type construction would be, for example. And so we've got those on there. It's really consistent with what's in the community already. We're not envisioning anything materially different than that, but we gave you some examples of what it could look like in case you want to discuss those as well. Otherwise, we did get, you know, some of these materials were submitted since planning commission. The reason was to be responsive and try to get you some information that they wish they had when they looked at it. Obviously, we haven't followed up on everything that they commented on yet, but we've done a lot of it. And so we're optimistic about getting to the next phase and being able to move through some of these items and get a final plan to you all to review. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is public comment. So I'm opening public comment. Anyone wishing to comment, pro or con, may step up to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. When you do that, state your name, make your comment, and sign the sign-in sheet for the record. There's a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. If you've already submitted a letter, please do not restate what is in your letter, it is already part of the record. Please do not repeat what others have said. You may say that you agree with prior comments. So do we have anyone here in the audience for public comment? Please.
I'll notify you when you have a minute left.
Okay, great, I don't have that much. The name is Two Black Diamond Trail at the summit. And a couple things. First of all, we're not either for nor against this development, but we did want to state some concerns that we have about the process. Our main concern, and it seems as though this has been well addressed by the applicant, is a preservation of before, during, and after construction. There's a clear grooming that goes through. Tract A is owned by the summit. It was acquired from a previous landowner, when it was called Nevada Ridge. It was bought by the summit from the previous owners I think it was in 2006. And that is groomed by CBMR. And they are, obviously requiring, certain conditions be present when they're grooming. So it's important to the summit and to myself and Pam, of course, that we are, that ski easements are maintained. There was some concern as well in phase 2. There's a left-hand turn as you're going up, and that looks like that phase 2 road will be right up against the Tract A, which is owned by the summit. As I said, we're concerned about snowplow, snow storage and this kind of stuff. That has the potential of impacting CBMR's ability to groom Tract A. What else do we have here? So that's really the big concern that we have. This is maybe neither here nor there, but other developers have tried and for a variety of reasons have failed to develop the Nevada parcel of Crested Butte Ridge. Looking at this, thank you. Looking at this, I would say that the current reports don't address all of the soil stability and subterranean hydrology that's on that site. I do believe that the applicant will get to this, but so I would say what we have right now does not address that. So that isn't so much a concern for us, but we are concerned that things get built, things start to happen over there and then things are discovered. So that continues to be a bit of a concern for the summit. That's all I have is mainly the ski easement issues.
Thanks, Peter. Anyone else here in the audience for public comment? Okay, moving to online. Is anyone online for public comment?
Hi, this is Marion Hilpert. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my husband and I own 6 Black Diamond Trail, which is lot number 5 adjacent to Tract A and ultimately the Crested Butte Ridge. And I just wanted to share a couple of concerns. The first is reiterating a bit what Peter mentioned, that we want to ensure that the easement is honored. And along those lines, I see on one of the pages of the submitted documents that where Tract A goes straight in front of lot 5 and then curves or turns to the right. There, it looks like there's a big 8-foot retaining wall to the right that goes up from that easement up to the right, but then also and I may be reading it wrong, but it looks like there's a drop off of an 8-foot retaining wall to the left of that skier easement. So I'm a little concerned about the safety of that path. And then one other concern, this is probably a small thing, but in the materials that Mr. Wick showed in the very beginning, it showed the ingress and egress of skiing from the mountain on into Summit, and the lines were not exactly correct. So if that's going to be part of the packet, then I would assume that that would need to be corrected.
On the skier easement.
Well, where it shows where people ski in and out of Summit, because it was showing that they're skiing across our lot, which they don't. There's an easement that goes to the side of lot number 5.
It looked to be incorrect on the drawing.
Okay,
And
anything else? Anything else? Anything else, ma'am? Looks like nothing, no. Okay, anyone else online for public comment? Last call for public comment for this public hearing. All right. Next is staff's response to public comments.
I think that we will let the applicant answer all of those questions.
Okay. Then that brings us to applicant's response to public comment.
So I think that, in terms of the Tract A and the grooming, it's good to bring it up and to be aware of it and to stay cognizant of that. We're not proposing to do anything on Tract A. It's a neighboring property. And I don't think that there's anything that we're proposing to do that would necessarily spill over onto it if we observe typical construction, safety measures and that sort of thing. And so we're not proposing anything different than that. So there's no reason to think that we would be spilling over onto it. And I have no problems being clear about that. I don't know what else I can do on that, though, to be clear about that. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. We're aware of it. And I think we can be clear that that's something that we're keeping in the record and aware of, and we'll we'll make sure that we're careful about. In terms of this, the skier access safety issue, I think that's actually more of a question for Randy Sackett, who's on and is our kind of lead engineer for the project. I don't know, Randy, if you have any thoughts on that one?
Sure. Again, I'm Randy Sackett. I'm with FCJ Alliance. We are the project engineer. And we're well aware of those concerns as well. And our plan, as we looked at the skier access physical design, we took into account how the ski area typically demarcates those areas as well. And for example, the clearance of the overpass, we looked at CBMR's typical snow caps, and as Peter mentioned, they're currently grooming this route. So it's in our best interest as well to continue to have that be done. But it's a good point regarding the retaining walls, and the thought is that those would be marked clearly, and so it would essentially be very similar to what you would see at the ski area where there's areas of hazards, and those are clearly marked. Yeah, I think that answered what I heard at least, but if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
So I think the other question was about where the arrows were shown on the map that those are like big picture directional. They're not.
Exactly. Yeah, I appreciate the comment, that it wasn't intended to show that people would be crossing over one another's lots. It was just generally to show the ski in and ski out concept that would continue to be maintained. And I would point out too that right now, if that essentially it'd be a snowcat road, if it were groomed the way that easement is right now, you'd have a really sharp right-hand turn and the grades wouldn't work out. So we've taken we've made a lot of effort to get that to grade nicely. We've looked at typical slopes around the ski area that are just steep enough to keep moving through there, but not so steep that you would have a beginner skier have trouble accessing that as well.
I think that's all the comments.
Okay, and if you want to stay there, Jacob, we have a question and answer with the applicant is next. And so counselors, do you have questions for the applicant?
I guess the only one I don't remember being answered directly, was there some kind of question with regards to like snow storage spillover because they were so close?
Yeah, I mean, we can't use it as snow storage. We don't own it, so we'll have to make sure that we are not storing it there. Yeah, I think we can, the way that it's designed, we will be able to physically remove it without putting it on their property, and that's the issue.
Ron?
Some questions about the ski easements. You mentioned shutting them down during construction. Is that rerouting them during construction or preventing people from accessing?
And to be clear, I'm just talking about the San Moritz easement that's right beneath the retaining walls. And I don't know, based on what they're gonna be doing, how much room there's gonna be and how safe it's gonna be. I don't think there's gonna be any issue from that applicant's point with rerouting it, if it happens during the winter, right? So I'm speaking kind of hypothetically, like I can't imagine that we're really gonna be working on soil nail walls in February. Unless we really timed it wrong.
I think there's summer traffic through there.
But it's a summer traffic issue more, and I would expect that some of that would probably be rerouted. But that's something to just be aware of, that maybe because of how steep that is right there may be a period of time where it just, I think, for safety reasons, kind of shut down for the period of time it takes to get that done. And obviously, it's not inexpensive, and so the applicant's gonna want it done as fast as possible, just like everybody else is gonna want it done as fast as possible, so.
So I'm hearing when you say construction, you're more talking about the walls, not homes.
I'm more focused on walls than homes. I'll have to talk with Randy when I come back. At final plan with the proposed easement in terms of whether we even need any protection for being able to shut that down when we're doing homes and stuff, uphill, for lack of a better way to put that, but I'm definitely more worried about the soil nail walls when we're working on those. Cause that's big, typically big equipment and it's right there, so.
Right. Yeah, and that's really fair and that's a easy concern to deal with. And just for future.
Yeah.
Conversations with the planning commission and the council.
Yeah.
When I hear access being temporarily closed, my mind goes to a $4 million house that takes 3 years to build and shutting down access over a long period of time. So.
Yeah, no, understood. I appreciate that.
Believe it, did you have a question?
I was curious if you could just give a little bit more insight to, why, quote unquote, they have no wetlands program currently and no staff to administer it. Did the EPA, was the wetlands program, dismantled?
Yes.
Maybe a little.
So by way of further explanation, there was a US Supreme Court case that came out that redefined how jurisdictional wetlands work for purposes of federal jurisdiction. And the net result of that is that there's a lot more state jurisdiction over it than federal wetlands, and states do not have the apparatus in place to actually regulate that, and Colorado has not yet come up with the means of regulating the state wetlands that are wetlands, but are not jurisdictional wetlands for the United States. Yeah.
Jacob, just, we have this, public comment from Mr. Payne,
Yes,
which I'm sure you've looked at, and
Yeah.
it seems like most of this has been covered, but I just wanna make sure. It sounds like, so just to ask his questions, phase one will not impact any of the current skier access paths.
right. So phase one should not impact the skier. You're still gonna be able to ski out the same ways as being done. And frankly, the bigger concern, I think, for folks is that they kind of ski all over the parcel right now. And that at some point that's gonna end, right? I mean, and so I think that's kind of a side issue. We're providing access on just about every way you can while still being able to do stuff on it.
Sure.
But so in terms of Mr. Payne's question, the way that he wants to ski out and ski in is utilizing that track day through where we've kind of got the bridge and then circling around, and that should all be in place phase one and phase two. He's just gonna go underneath a bridge during phase two.
Okay. And then his questions regarding phase two, he's asking, will the public be able to access the Summit ski in and ski out access pass from the top of the west wall lift? I assume that's still track A.
Yeah, again, that's that track day, and I wanna be clear in what I'm saying there. There's not any new easement that we're granting to the public. Like, there's not gonna be a Mount Crested Butte, ski easement on track A that we're granting as part of this, because we don't own it. So I can't do that.
Just did what it is.
It is what it is, and what it is right now is a ski access based on the documentation that I've seen. That was to Crested Butte LLC or whatever the previous resort owner was. So my opinion is that's in place for the ski resort. If the ski resort says one day, no, we're not gonna have you guys ski there anymore, it would be a San Moritz access only because they're the fee owner. But it wouldn't be for anybody else. And again, I mean, it was given to the ski resort, so it kind of is what it is.
Understood. That skiers will be able to ski into the CB Ridge skier access going under the bridge.
Right, that's that one, and it loops around, yep, and that will be part of this. So that the part that goes under the bridge is part of our plat and will be platted for that purpose.
So that's the easement.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the next one is, let's see if I understand this correctly. From where a skier could hook around to the left and connect with the red San Moritz easement.
So he's wondering, after I come out the bridge, can I hang a left and get down the mountain and get to the skier access easement? And that's all the open space, Crested Butte Land Trust. And they've indicated no intention to me of changing how people can use that parcel. So that's out there. And we're formalizing the San Moritz Trail that goes across that as part of this.
And so understanding that you can't commit owners of other properties, but your understanding is the answer to that question is yes.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Okay.
I see big picture, I see nothing that's gonna change their ability to access it other than on the actual lots, right? You can't ski across people's lots, except for there's easement.
Yep. And then the last one was the ability to ski to the cul-de-sac at Hunter Hill Road.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the same question, if I'm understanding. it
Owned
right.
by other people.
Yeah, so there is a portion that's,
So it's not.
I'll say further downhill. That's owned by Okemo, which was the prior resort owners, kind of real estate development, or as I understand it. And I know of nothing that says that they're gonna prevent access or anything like that, but that's never really been an access point across our property, because it just doesn't work. And so my expectation is that they will, if that gets developed at some point in the future, you guys will get the same questions at that point and make sure that there's a skier access easement on that parcel. And until then, I would assume, and it's an assumption, that they'll continue to allow access, but I can't guarantee that because literally have not even talked to them about it, their property, so.
Robert?
Still staying on the important stuff with skier access. Safety was brought up with some of the designs with the walls and whatnot. Generally, skier access points like this are pretty primitive, just a way in.
Yeah,
Is there any risk or alignment with like a big drop off that wasn't there before? Is it more than just marked? Is it delineated? Is there a rope? Because I could completely see somebody unaware of how that really goes, just fly off.
Yeah,
Kind
I
of
think
like how
that's-
people do right now with
Right.
the Batter Bridge wall.
and
Right.
that's not something that I've talked in great detail with Randy about before. There is gonna be some grading on kind of the downhill side of that is gonna be different than what it is now in order to accommodate the road and building sites and everything else. I don't know how, Randy, do you have a sense for how pitched that's gonna be on kind of that downhill side of that skier access easement?
Well, as someone had pointed out earlier, there is a short retaining wall. If you wanted to bring up that exhibit again, but I think what's important to notice is there's two existing dry stack boulder retaining walls there right now. So there's nothing to prevent people going over those at this point. And in fact, as Jacob mentioned, they're skiing all over, and a lot of them are jumping off those retaining walls. But there will be signage, and as I mentioned earlier, some. I think it would make sense to have ropes and typical ski area, markings that would prevent people from going over there. And the grade is such that again, they're not going to be moving that fast through there. We're trying to maintain enough grade so that they'll simply be able to move through there at all.
So maybe in another way, it's like sort of business as usual. You're just more funneling people into specific places.
I think that's right. I mean, I think it's gonna be a little bit more intentional than it has been in the past, but it should be clearly marked, and I don't think that we're creating hazards that don't already exist as part of it. In fact, I think probably be an overall safer site. But that's something that we, in the next phase of the plan, will make sure to maybe give some kind of rendering of or something like that, so you guys can sort of see what it looks like.
Belita?
If you wouldn't mind, in appendix A, the exhibits, there's a couple renderings of easements with like overlapping easements on overlapping easements that are pretty hard to interpret.
Yeah.
Could you bring that up and give us a little bit more guidance as to what, like, whose easements are they and why are there overlapping easements? And because one of them looks like it might be the road, but I didn't see it called an easement before.
Sure. Sure, yeah,
So,
I can. You're gonna have to give me a second because I also apparently need a new IT contract and my computer crashed while we were talking.
well, the night-
We can bring up in the packet.
That'd be great, yeah. if you don't mind.
It's Deidre.
So appendix A, the exhibit, page 3 and 4 of that. And I always use the version where you can just click on the links, so I'm not looking at the full.
Yeah.
Full.
So it's the,
By way of high level overview of a response, well.
That-
Perfect.
That's one of them, and the one before it.
So there are a ton of easements on this. You'll see, some of these noted in different ways. So big picture,
Yeah,
there are multiple tracks. The conservation easement is on the track that is, I'll say closest to the resort. So you'll see that noted.
can you,
There's-
do we have a laser pointer?
We do. Stretchers.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, maybe.
So,
You might have to do it on the other one.
sure, I'm bouncing on things,
Yeah, it might have. There you go.
still bouncing on things.
Well, that worked.
Did it
I
work?
could see it, yeah.
You can see, oh, you can see. This is tract A.
Yep.
See the reference to that there. That is a skier easement. You see, there's another easement over here. That's a previous skier easement. Well, the roadway has a number of different easements in it. So there's easements from the previous plat for roadway. There's also easements for skier access associated with some portions of that. And there are various provisions in those regarding realignment, like, for example, we're allowed to. Can't even see it, up here. Where it loops around onto the conservation easement, we're allowed to realign that roadway, provided we essentially don't make it materially bigger, there's standards, but we've met those standards. With CBLT, and so there are, there's that portion of the easement, there's also over here. I can see it. Yeah, over here, there are existing easements, so there's like a utility easement that's kind of over there, which you saw on some of it. There's also easements for skier access over there already. We're just putting things in and making it clearer for the San Lorenzo Trail to make sure that that trail is honored. And there's various and sundry utility easements and stuff on this too. By way of big picture, so that's super confusing. And that's why we got asked to come up with a trail easement exhibit, which is that's what we did, because really, I think people care way more about the trails than they do about where utilities and stuff like that are, in the roadway.
Okay, so we are looking at the road, and then the one that kind of cuts across from lower left to upper right, down.
Down here.
So, maybe I should just.
Yeah.
This, I don't quite understand.
It reflects off the back of the TV, so it really doesn't do.
Okay, what
depending on where you're
is,
sitting.
what is this easement right there?
That
See
one,
that? Yeah.
that was,
Is that like from the last development
tell you.
or, okay,
is the,
yeah. Mm,
I would have to look at it. I think that is probably the last access easement location. That's also getting realigned as part of this. If I'm looking at the right one, yeah, so we actually kind of scrunched down the access easement
Mhm.
and the roadway from what it was before, so there's less on the CBLT property. And so that is tighter than it used to be. But again, those are typically what you're seeing on that, other than the skier access and utility easements, are previously platted access driveway, kind of like roadway locations rather.
So then, like, for example, the exhibit before this, which you should just be able to scroll up. Is probably just the this is probably just the previous easement and the updated easement from like,
Yeah, so you can see the difference in the code, right?
would be
So
state.
this was,
Yeah,
you see like the difference in the roadway locations.
yep.
And it's tighter and all that, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, in looking at this, so there's never an issue, if we had more wetlands regulation guidance. There's no issues with running utility easements through wetlands?
So we're not proposing any new utility easements.
Those are already there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like platted stuff. Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not anything new that we're adding, right? In terms of the
No.
wetland.
No, if you're referring to the one that's labeled E and then in parentheses under UG, that's an underground power line that already exists. I can't quite tell which one you're pointing to, but
There's that one, yeah.
So there was already a wetlands banking and stuff that was done on this project before
Mhm.
with the federal government. And then they like did some stuff, and they essentially did that program, but then they didn't complete the build out of the project. So there's been like a wetlands kind of banking and all that done for the project already. And so one thing we don't know, for example, is like, is the state of Colorado gonna honor that or require something in addition to that, or what the case may be? So you may see some disturbance of wetlands that happened in the past as part of that. I actually don't know.
Mhm. Okay, I think that's all my questions for now.
Anyone else have questions? Yeah. Roman, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, hearing none. Or hearing no additional anyway. I'm closing the public comment. And so I'm now closing the public testimony portion of the public hearing for the application at 6:53 PM. And now the town council will discuss the applications and entertain separate motions. Carlos, could you just refresh us on the current stage we're at in the process and what an approval tonight means? As far as there's like a number of questions about easements and there's gonna be stuff I think we're gonna get more information on later. Could you just go over for the council where we are in the process?
I will gladly do that, but I would
Or-
rather.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so this is preliminary, so the applicant will have to come back again to both planning commission and council with final, which will have much more detail about geotech and anything else that was in that, list of conditions from the planning commission. So approval at this stage is approval of the project, but we can ask for the additional clarification besides what the planning commission asked for. Anything to add to that?
Well, clarification, this is approval of the preliminary plan, not of the project.
Mm.
So this is the second step in the process to get to final approval.
Right, this is subdivision and PUD preliminary plan, which is the penultimate step under both subdivision and PUD. So if approved tonight, you would be approving it to go to both subdivision final plan, which is essentially final plat, and PUD final plan. PUD final plan would go planning commission and council to public hearings at both of those stages. And that is the final approval stage for the entire application.
Thank you.
Does the town have any response to Mount CV water and sands concerns? And I know that one of the contingent items is approval by them. So.
Let me pull up that specific. I mean, yeah, the final is contingent on meeting everything that. All the comments and requirements from the watering plan. I think that the condition of final approval that they put at the end of their letter that says the town will not issue any construction, excavation, land disturbance, building permits until the developer obtains the water agency's written approval. It's pretty clearly where their stance is.
Is that in the recommendation? Planning commission?
Yes.
Really needs to be a final plan in any case, but
Yeah.
that language would be consistent with the language we put in the villages and Upper Prospect, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
To approve preliminary PD plan, preliminary subdivision plan for Crested View Ridge development.
Second.
You second, sorry, Al.
Well, we have a motion from Steve and a second from Alec to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Crested Butte Ridge development. Any further discussion?
May I just, hi, everyone. Can I just pop in and say that Steve should amend his motion to include the recommended conditions from the planning commission?
So moved, so amended?
Yes.
Friendly amendment on the second. Okay, thanks for that, Nick. So now we're on to additional discussion, and I actually had some questions about the planning commission conditions. I just want to make sure they address some of the things we've talked about tonight. And I guess specifically the easements. So the San Moritz easement is mentioned, but do we need more as a condition for skier easements?
Mentioned all these been discussed during the meeting. Something like that.
Well, we have three essentially, right? We have Summit, San Moritz, and what was the third one? There were three colors, right? I don't have it pulled up.
Parcel A. Right above.
That was
The property.
Summit, I think.
Track day is the sun.
Track A. But Shannon, can you look those up for us?
Well, I'm assuming the approval letter from the fire department is specific to the submitted redesigns of phase 1 and 2 with regards to the road hammer sack. Let's pop in that now. Otherwise. Number 6.
And then planning department folks, compliance with the recommendations of the Colorado Geologic Survey, that's sufficient to address geotech concerns? I'm asking.
I would say so. The
Okay.
CGS comments were pretty thorough.
Yeah, just making sure we're covering. Just making sure we're not leaving anything out by just adopting planning commission. I wanna make sure if there's anything we're adding on to it, that we get that in, so.
This is the trails. Exhibit, appendix, no, exhibit. I think one of the last exhibits. So we have. Skier access easement right here. And then this is the San Moritz Trail. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving. San Moritz Trail is kind of on the upper left. And then there's another skier access that's part of tract A, which is down here. Which is down at the bottom.
That's good.
The track day is the long, narrow strip at the bottom there.
See my notes?
Well, and again, this paragraph 2 of the planning commission recommendations, it reads identification of the San Moritz user trail easement on the final plat and provide a visual and topographical depiction of all skier and trail easements and access points from San Moritz and the Summit neighborhood. And it seems like that's the exhibit you did,
Yeah.
but then how do we make sure that that follows through?
Well, I might suggest that additional language would be shown and all skier easements and trail easements shown on the final plat.
Yeah, so we can
Right.
amend.
I'll amend my motion to include all skier easements to be included on final plat.
Trying to say it. Okay.
Yeah, so inclusion of all easements. On the final plat.
And Shannon, just since we've had a couple of minutes, could you read back the motion, please?
Yes. Okay. Okay, move to approve preliminary subdivision and PUD plans for Crescent Butte Ridge with the following conditions outlined in the planning commission's recommendation, which is those 7 conditions. And the addition of identification of all user trail and skier access easements on the final plat. In number 2.
That's not right there, but it sounds good. Okay, we're still in further discussion. Go ahead.
Carl's any comment on the ownership of the easement that was mentioned?
My initial blush, Nick and I traded, this is the San Moritz easement that.
Yeah, the land trust doesn't.
Nick and I traded some discussions, some conversations on that. And generally speaking, you know, with the easement being. The town being the holder of that easement, generally speaking, gotta keep it in as a public easement. So that could be something that would work, Nick threw out the idea of potentially a license agreement. But beyond that, I think generally what they're proposing of the town, whether through a license agreement or an easement, being the holder of the right to use that, which would essentially make it public, is reasonable and makes sense.
Any indication of why the land trust doesn't want to be involved with it? Is it just more administrative time on their hands, or spit it out, or? I don't know what
I could speculate, I couldn't give you an honest answer, it might just be their policy to not have individualized easements like that, but I actually can't speak for them. Or hadn't talked to them about it to confidently give a valid reason on why they feel that way.
Okay. And Shannon, in the staff report, since, what was it, 2023, the number of units hasn't changed except for phase 2, adding 5 single family lots. Is that accurate?
So 2023 was the sketch plan for this project.
Or, excuse me,
So prior to that, Nevada Ridge.
before, where the duplex lots were.
Yeah, I think it was
so-
7. So it was, at first it was 4 duplex lots, yeah, and then it went down, and 7 single family lots, and then it went down to just 7 single family lots, and then we're now up to 9.
So the number of units hasn't changed other than phase 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talked as a council all about our master plan values with access and recreation and all those things. Are there any other concerns in phase 2 that anybody has?
I mean, I was trying to picture up in my mind with regards to like summer traffic. Of course, people walk around, that's not like the place they're going to, right? I mean, I think there's probably 2 other ways to get there. If you were using that section to get to somewhere in the mountain, I don't know.
Well, I mean, with like adding those additional
For sure,
lots
yeah.
or anything like that.
Nick, can I
Yes, I'm
just
sorry.
address something to Carl? So what exactly does it mean, like when he stated Sam Reeds wants the town to take over the trail? What does take over the trail mean? Is there liability involved in that?
Well, let me give it my first shot, and then Nick, I think, is already, well, Nick, you're chomping at the bit, I can tell. I'll let you just take it.
Generally, as Mr. With described, developers will just dedicate public lands on a plat, and then it's ours. There wouldn't be any additional liability other than those already outlined as exceptions to the CGIA. So if there were dangerous conditions that we knew about and didn't remedy, then we could be exposed to liability, but it wouldn't be above and beyond any liability that we have for anything else that happens on public lands.
So that's public land, not the developer's land. So how can they make decisions on what happens to a public land?
So if I
their
may,
PUD.
may I pose a question to Jacob? Which is basically Bobby's question. Jacob, the Sam, I know the Sam Moritz Trail we're talking about, we're calling it the Sam Moritz Trail. Is it on Sam Moritz property? No. Okay. So that's a valid question, and so back to your original question is, so it would be on private land. Whose land is it on?
The trail will pass primarily just through property owned by the applicant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the applicant would be granting the easement
And
to the
the
town.
Yeah, the applicant and CBLT have to really grant the easement, because the portion that goes over the conservation easement, we don't have the ability to grant a right for a trail across that, because the conservation easement deprived us of that ability to do that. So they would have to approve it. They have asked that the town take that. I'm assuming just because they don't want to be the operator of a public trail, but they do want to make sure it's public, not just limited to like my subdivision or something like that, because that's consistent with their conservation values, and that's why they've made that request, I believe.
So Crested Butte Ridge and Crested Butte Land Trust, as the owners of the property, would be granting in this proposal, the town, the public access trail easement. And so the town would have a right to use that. We wouldn't be the owners of the land. We would just have like a utility easement. It's on your property. But the utility companies have a right to put utilities on your property, so it would function the same way. And to the extent that Nick described it, those are the responsibilities to the town that would come with it if we were the holder of the easement.
And it doesn't close any public access to that trail then.
I mean,
It's not exclusive.
technically it vests the power to do so within the town, but we would keep it as a public easement, so,
Thank you
yeah.
for clarifying.
Yeah.
So just to revisit my question, in the effort to keep referencing it as control during the community processes, does anybody have any issue with anything that we see here?
Do you?
No, I'm just trying to be diligent and, not trying to address some of these things later.
Thank you for it.
Okay, and just in that vein, we didn't talk about it, but part of this application. That was in the PUD application is their proposed community housing plan, which they're gonna do payment in lieu. Because this site is not great for on-site building of a community housing project, so. That's part of this application, so that's part of this approval, will be approval of that preliminary. Plan, which is payment in lieu.
And we
Thanks
typically
for-
see that broken out in the final, right? Like exactly what that looks like the payment dollar amount. You did? Oh, okay. Apologies if I missed it.
Right.
Thanks for bringing that up. I should have referenced my notes. Carlos. It creates more than one unit, yeah?
Yeah.
So do we want to discuss requiring the building of that unit rather than payment in lieu?
Yeah, no, thanks. I knew about this too, and so I'm sorry we got all the way to final discussion without.
We had conversation about the last plan with regards to this too, though, right? It was quite, like, it would have to find.
That was Honey Rock.
I believe what happened in this, what Neil knows. I'll let him.
At the skip plan discussion, this was brought up, and then the request from the applicant was due to the fact that it's far removed from any transit services. The location is just not a good location for on-site affordable housing. At that time, the discussion and the direction from town council was they concurred with that assessment and accepted payment in lieu as a part of that request.
I do remember there being an issue with, like, what do you mean, I need a bus stop to get through my life? Like, there was some conversation there, but by and large, I think that was the same the conversation.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it was one of my first.
I was thinking more off-site rather than on-site.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we do see PUD proposals that demonstrate offsite.
Yeah.
Which is really, honestly, I feel like that's. In my eyes preferred, you know, you're a developer, you're probably really good at building things, so.
Standalone unit though, I feel like might be kind of
Possibly.
crazy. Yeah, it'd be
But-
one thing if it was like 4, or like.
Can purchase as well, correct?
Yep, make a purchase. There are some inherent problems with that method we found, but it's certainly possible.
So like. I'm okay with you.
Neil, since we seemingly as a council, we're okay with this before and we missed the opportunity with having a conversation with the applicant about this is sort of the ship sailed on that one.
Well, you have closed the public testimony, without reopening it, you're not gonna have the opportunity to discuss it with the applicant again.
Well, we'll have that opportunity to final plan.
Yeah,
Could make-
tonight
you
is
could-
just,
And 1 second, Nick, you could amend the motion to include a community housing plan, which would be payment in lieu. I think that community housing plan needs to have a payment schedule, similar to what we did at Hillside, because there's inclusionary zoning that applies and there's housing mitigation that applies. And in the past, when we run into this situation, and I've worked with Jacob on this, is we require the inclusionary once a lot has sold. And then the mitigation could be due at when actual building permit is pulled. That's just an option. But I think a plan should be submitted that has that level of detail to it at final plan. That could be a condition that's added to the motion. And, you know, so the ship has not sailed on that. It could be something that could still be addressed at final plan. It wouldn't be approved until final plan was approved as well. Nick, I hope that aligns to a certain degree, but please,
yeah,
with mayor's permission to add on, please.
I would only say that it really doesn't even have to be a condition. The code kind of contemplates just a preliminary community housing plan, identifying the anticipated requirements, and you just kind of put a general scope, and obviously their general scope here is just the payment of a fee in lieu. But really the community housing plan code section really requires approval of a full detailed plan as Carlos has described at final plan submission. So that's really the forum for the more detailed community housing plan, I would say. And that just by nature of approving this fee in lieu proposal doesn't generally tie you to the approval of the fee in lieu at the approval of the community housing plan at final plan.
Shannon, I remember reading in here that they did have the payment in lieu and that maybe it had been approved earlier, and I remember reading it in here, I can't find it now. Do you know maybe where that is? Cause it was addressed in the report.
I don't see dollar signs or anything, but.
There was a
maybe-
chart.
No, and there was a dollar sign.
Oh, there was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was discussed at some stage. This would have been in my role as community development director, either at concept review or potentially at sketch plan. Was it sketch plan?
It was at sketch.
Sketch plan, okay, yeah.
I can't find it though. But it was it's in here.
Like $94,000.
Yeah, so I think Neil's summary there sounds accurate, and it was discussed and asked at the sketch plan if the town would consider payment in lieu. And it sounds like the answer to that was yes, but we still, as Nick pointed out, still need to have that program, that plan in place for approval at final plan.
And that would be the understanding of staff as well.
The only exception to that advice would be if we've had some prior approval of a community housing plan, which I don't see in this packet or indicated otherwise.
Yeah, I don't see it.
So just so I understand, if we do an approval tonight, it does not bind us to payment in lieu or requiring building or purchasing offsite.
No.
Attorney says no.
Okay, so, sounds like we're gonna save that discussion for a different time. I do think it's a discussion we wanna have, yes. Okay. Thanks, Nick.
Mayor, can I ask one other thing?
Please.
If you did want to add as a condition, maybe including proposals of community housing outside of the fee in lieu proposal, just noting that in this preliminary plan, fee in lieu isn't getting us all the way there. I think that'd be a fine condition to have, more so just to memorialize it for the next time this comes around.
Could you restate the conditions so that we might slip it into a motion?
Yeah, a condition that applicant submit community housing plans outside of fee in lieu payment.
Friendly amendment, Steve?
Yes.
Friendly second, Alec?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can we do that, given the fact that we call right out that we will allow a payment in lieu or housing? Like, I mean, and this sounds like we're requiring both. I mean, you
No,
just said we could.
we're not requiring both. We're just requiring the potential of submitted alternative plans. If they come back in at final plan and say, hey, these are our plans and these are the reasons why these aren't feasible, and here's why the fee in lieu is the most sensible option, then that's what we get. We're not requiring fee in lieu and the building of housing.
then we could approve or deny at that time.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
And I'll just add really quick. I think back to when we discussed Oros a few months back. They had a fee in lieu option right in their plan, and they had the plan that was ultimately approved where they are building offsite units. That's kind of what we're looking for here, right? Just different options available if such exist.
Thanks, Nick.
We'll review the minutes from the sketch plan review, just to be sure what the actual comments were from the council on that matter, because I don't want to confuse that for anybody's sake.
Okay. Anything else? Shannon, vote please.
I will call vote, you, approved, so, sorry. No.
Bobby?
Yeah, okay.
Roman?
Sorry.
Yes. Alec? Yes. Did you vote?
Yes.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Belita?
Yeah.
Steve? Yeah. Nicholas?
Yes.
Thanks.
No.
Haven't even
All right.
gotten the page.
I'm now closing the public hearing at 7:20 PM. We're on to other business. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next is winter admissions tax grant reports, and we have Marissa for that.
But it's in the one room. Yes, I. Here. All right. So for, you want me to wait?
Maybe just a minute. Let's take 5 minutes, please.
It's so weird that it's 2 weeks. I think it's because I've been on a different idea all day. And so mine's probably.
On your side, where you're. Yeah.
I haven't had any. Today was the first day. When everybody else.
Well, Nick Price right me anyway, so I can't win it. He hit me with the 1 minute overage.
Yes, so you're screwed, yeah.
Unless I hit it right on. At 8.
Well, again, you gotta include.
Should there be a rule?
Yeah, well, we definitely discussed, and we're looking over this right now. What I recall, which could be 100%. Well, the question, I know we discussed it, the question is like, when.
Did you see that chlorine?
Yeah. What I kind of understand is that. Was part of the concept. Right, this is the overall.
Yeah, no stopping it. Right now. Everybody except.
And I knew you used to share.
Yeah, but that's not, yeah, wow.
Well, it doesn't, that doesn't always really matter, that's a big subject to whatever number it is created somehow. So whatever number we're in there, but reflect certain numbers in 20.
Yeah, I thought not, Ross is more.
Oh, there you go, there's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cookies, the spin drifter. No, I would.
No, I mean.
Oh, no, that's what I brought back.
Yeah.
It was just.
I mean, it would be for, how many you said, 8 units? Inclusion area zone alone would be about 10,000.
And if there's a new company bringing a proposal together, none of that.
That sounds like a
matters
grant
anyway,
Right?
Say that again.
So does that matter?
So
anyway?
that's
Like,
what they do.
I don't have a question.
Well, it's the same group that presented.
You gotta trust one and bring
But
it
again,
up and-
we're checking to see, you know,
Okay, got it.
if
We're
it
going
was
on.
said at concept review, it doesn't matter,
Okay.
because that's not fine.
Well, sketches.
I mean, we did it Yamper with them, which was really.
Whether
fun,
the
but
minutes
thought-
reflected or not, that was the discussion.
And it was out
They had
there.
to do what they looked hard.
Is that the grant?
for
What do you
property.
You were
The brand.
manager of this at the time.
Yeah,
right?
because I memorized,
When you were here.
no.
Yes, that was in
Yeah.
20.
Friend of ours pulled an August 7th launch.
We just.
Or
pulled up the
October
minutes,
7th
it says-
Sorry. October 7th launch, but not this year, next year.
But. Go back
So
and
we've got
take-
time.
Well, I
We have
remember.
to give our
I
answer
can
by
remember
Labor Day.
if it was skipped, I don't even remember it. Yeah,
I'm fingers crossed.
Either-
And I'm Charlie, if he's gonna wanna go, I'll be on
Sketch
it. if anyone
because that
wants
was
to go.
part of the issue. is what they
Mhm.
want.
If Charlie doesn't wanna go, you can be my plus
Yeah,
one.
yeah, listen to
Can
this.
you guys let you do that?
If it's not fine, not in the motion.
Let is the wrong.
Allow.
It would cost.
Oh, okay, that's true. I'd probably invite Tina before I invited you though.
Yeah.
That's what happens when your wife is yours. That's why I got invited instead of Charlie.
I don't know if we can come back. It'd be nice to have one. Yeah.
All right, everybody ready to get back to it?
Yes.
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 All right, so reiterating, next is winter admissions tax grant reports. Marissa.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. For those of you that were at the work session earlier, a lot of this will be a little bit of repeat, but, so I've outlined it in the report or the agenda that I created for these reports. But, basically what we've run into is reporting deadlines being missed. And staff has had to adjust the way that we're doing our reporting instructions. So, you'll see that in our report, we have all of the applicants who have reported and the questions that we have. Usually this is the first phase of review that Rebecca and I do. We look at the reports, we ask questions, we ask for the applicant to revise the report based on the questions that we have. So all that information is included in a revised report, and then sometimes we actually ask for like a third revision. So usually when we're coming to you, it can be on a second or third reiteration of the report. And in this instance, it's just going to be kind of that first glance because we did not have the time, we don't have the time as staff at this time in our schedules to put together 6 different reports and go back and forth with applicants essentially. So I'm sorry that this is where we're at, and it's not how I like to do our work. It's unfortunate, it's pretty frustrating, but here we are, and we're probably gonna spend quite a bit of time going through these questions with the applicants. So any questions about that in the process of where we're at and why we're at this process right now? Hearing none, I will move to the first applicant, which is going to be a bar above, and I believe I saw that Dewey was online. He is. So Dewey, just want to make sure you can hear us. We just want to walk through these questions with you and just make sure you're off mute.
I can hear you, and I just want to apologize for misunderstanding the due date. I know your time is important. You're very busy, so I'm sorry for making the inconvenience.
Thanks, I appreciate that. So I'm sure you've had a chance to look at these questions already, because they were in a packet, but the first question that we had was regarding how many nights were booked. You state that 163 were booked. Does that reflect the number of evenings that you guys were open, or maybe how many music nights? You know, just if you could clarify that, that would be great.
Yes, the reflection is correct.
Of what? What does that
Oh.
one stand for?
Sorry, 1 second.
No problem.
Got to open up my computer. Ooh. It's been a long day at the coffee lab. So the questions are in the report
Yeah, so.
online in 9.3.
Yeah, on the first page, it says, how many nights were booked, and you put down 163, so I'm just wondering what that 163 reflects. Does it reflect?
That reflects, that reflects, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
That reflects the number of nights that we were booked or the number of artists that were booked total.
Okay, so of that 163, then were there some repeats? Like, so the
Yes, there are definitely repeats.
For, you know, people in a band, okay. So then on average, how many nights of music should be booked?
I guess I'm maybe not fully understanding the question, but we booked 163 nights, and that's how many performances we had. Some of the performers are repeats.
Okay.
And okay, sorry. I apologize. I just finished the application for next season. So yeah, some of those were opera's. So some of those are bookings for like opera and for the evening.
Okay.
So I can't give you I could give you a total of apres and evenings, and then give you a total of days booked if you'd like.
That would be great. You don't have that information offhand.
You're not, but I'm gonna start some notes real quick. And
Can I just, it sounds to me like 163 events. What if we just say it like that?
yeah,
That could be 2 a day.
True.
Or,
It
Yep.
was two in some cases.
Yep.
I think what Marissa was trying to get at was like, how many,
Artists.
if you think about it as like a hotel, where, like it's a night of booking, rather than like two different parties that are staying in a hotel room.
That's not how it
morning.
works. For musical access, they're separate bookings, even if they happen at the same time.
So then it's either an unclear question or an unclear answer.
Which I think points to Dewey's sort of being useless. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I'm asking for clarification. I think there's a difference between Saturday having 4 musical acts and then nothing throughout the week. And then, or if we have it booked Thursday through Sunday, which essentially is what we were asking, the original programming was this idea that, you know, there's music multiple nights. So I just would like some more clarification there.
you would like to know how many days were booked. I can definitely make sure I
Yeah, that would
adjust that.
Right. Perfect. So with that, your winter goal was to attract larger musical acts to the mountain. Do you feel like you met this goal? If so, how was it measured? And, yeah, I just mentioned like 2 different ways that it could be measured, but.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have the questions in front of me. I didn't find those on your on the notes.
It's gonna be the very first link under 9.3 on the agenda online. Right underneath the Zoom link, scroll down to 9.3 and the 2024-25 winter admissions tax grant staff report link. That's where you're gonna find these questions.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I do feel that we brought some bigger acts to the mountain than we have before. People from out of town, some larger bands from town, and larger acts. Ideally, like mostly instead of just having Scott Stewart play, it would be like Scott Stewart and his friend who plays the steel guitar, or instead of not being able to book Steve's band, we were able to book all of the Astro Bandits and pay them a reasonable wage, that sort of thing. So yeah, I do feel like we accomplished that. I feel like we could have done better, and I hope that we do going forward. But yeah, it's a process and takes time to grow things. So hopefully that just grows larger.
Thank you. So you also increased the amount of money musicians were getting paid this year, so you kind of touched on that, but can you explain how the initiative went? So you mentioned that you could do better. Just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so mostly like before we were just paying acts a percentage with a minimum. And that worked great for individuals most of the time. But to be able to like say we are going to pay you, $200 per person or $150 per person or whatever it would be, definitely seemed to be better for the artist, and also was just better for our budgeting too. So I feel like that was a success for sure. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does, definitely. So based on your initial report, you projected a net revenue of 689, around that number, and we're just shy of that goal, bringing in about 643 or 644 to round up. Can you just discuss the trends that you saw this winter in comparison to last year, and maybe why your net was a little bit lower than expected?
I think it really just came down to snowfall, unfortunately. as you guys all know, we are definitely reliant on how much snow we get. I'd say the majority of it really was that. It's seeing those front rangers decide to go to a different resort or not come out at all, just because there wasn't much snow this winter.
Yeah, you're not the only one that has that as a reasoning.
I didn't know if this Fireflies.ai a contracted service or is that just for this way you are?
It's with our Microsoft Teams. Yeah.
Cause it is wormy.
Okay, so did you meet that initial goal of having at least 50 shows during the winter season? And how does that compare to the year before?
Yeah, we definitely did. And although I think we had fewer shows than the year before, they were, like I said, I think they were bigger and better. And we didn't waste anybody's time. I felt like the winter before, when we had some, Monday, Tuesday shows that were just pitifully slow. One is not great for morale and of the artists, and two is just kind of could be a waste of their time. So I feel like we were more focused on making sure that the artists had a good show with a good group of audience members, and they made more tips that way as well.
That's the question.
Mhm.
I thought 163 was the number of performances booked.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be considered a show?
Yes. Yeah, so I'm saying we definitely we surpassed the goal of 50 shows.
I thought he had said they were short.
In last year's comparison.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on questions 2 through 5 that we had, what are your business goals moving forward and how are you planning for next winter? Like, let's say we have the same type of snow year, do you plan to have the same structure or will it look different?
Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to deal with whatever the winter gives us, and so we can't really plan for what snowfall we're gonna have right now. But we're gonna shoot for doing what we've done, and ideally increasing the number of bigger shows that we have.
I'm just taking notes. Okay, and then do you have the updated report expense sheet that we asked for?
Oh, I don't think so. Um, I do not.
Okay, if you can email that to me, that would be great.
Yeah, can do. When was that requested? I'm sorry, I just missed it, maybe.
When I sent the email to everyone inviting you to the meeting, I included where the packet materials were listed.
Okay, yeah, I can try to go find that, and if you get a chance to forward it to me, I know you're busy, but I would appreciate it. Yeah, I'll definitely go look for it.
It can be found online, the budget spreadsheet on our admissions grant tabs.
Oh, is it just it's the new budget spreadsheet that, okay. Yeah, I will use that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Does town council, well, actually, Rebecca, I'm gonna go to you first.
I had no back further comments or questions for Dewey.
Does town council have any further questions? Or move on to the next? Okay, great. We'll be back to you, Dewey, with Coffee Lab stuff. For now, we will be moving on to adaptive sports. And let me just change where I'm headed here. It looks like Jess is on the meeting. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I have people's reports up. Okay. Hey Jess, I see you're on there, so I'm just gonna dive right in. So the report states that Adaptive invested $96,431 into this initiative. Does that total include the grant or any other grants that you guys have received?
Yeah, that included both my summer and winter grant that you guys awarded us. So I should have subtracted $40,000 basically.
Okay, what's that updated number?
56,431.
So we invested.
That the Adaptive invested $56,431 in marketing, and then Mount CB invested 40,000 over a year. So not for the like winter season. That was a full fiscal year for Adaptive.
You invested your full fiscal in the actual budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be 76,500.
Yeah.
We have the 56,500, we have the 20,000.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
Okay, and then the report in the original application, it just contradicts itself. It just said our goal is to increase participation for 479 to 508. And you just mentioned in your report a participation number of 264. And said you had 266.
Yeah, so it's confusing the way that we report stuff like at Adaptive, like this crazy huge spreadsheet we have. So I just pulled the wrong numbers. So basically the 479 and 508 was our total participants during the winter season, including our groups and community members, which this grant does not fund marketing for that. We don't really do marketing for those types of participants. So basically I just pulled the wrong numbers. It's the same like increase in percentage wise, but it's just I pulled the overall numbers instead of pulling that like 264 and 266 numbers. So basically our goal was to have 260, or I think it was like 270 something, and then we had 264 individuals come. So that's like that is different from the groups and community member participants that we have. So our overall participants, the goal was 508 for all of those people.
Okay, so just to be clear, your application was wrong for the numbers that you pulled, or the report that you provided was wrong?
The application, the original application was the overall participation and not just individuals. So the report numbers are correct.
Then knowing that, what? So. I'm just looking at your.
So they were
report.
slightly down, right?
Yeah, by what? 2 participants?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify here, the need and want for lessons are there with Adaptive, but due to staffing, you guys were unable to manage more lessons. Like that's what was in your report, which was similar to the summer report that you had. What plans does Adaptive have to adjust goals based on just staffing issues? And, you know, can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so this past winter, we had plenty of instructors, but we actually had 3 instructors get injured, and 2 of them did not actually come back during the winter season. One of them was able to come back after a while, but one of them had to have surgery, and one just like couldn't come back and ski. And so that's something that we can't really plan for. We obviously hope that none of our instructors get injured, but having 3 instructors off of our payroll is a big toll. That's a lot. We only have like 25 instructors, so 3 really makes a big difference. We do have on-call instructors that we can call on, but they have other obligations and commitments, so they can't always come. So we did have to cancel some people's lessons or not be able to schedule people in general because you know, we thought we were going to have those 3 instructors. So that was kind of what happened this winter. That was an abnormal thing. It's kind of rare when we have instructors that don't make it back for the season. And also 3 instructors.
Okay, yeah,
That's a
so
lot.
it was essentially like a different problem.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It was a different problem that you had from the summer, so you guys did essentially adjust, is what you're saying, and planned with more staffing. Okay.
Yeah, in our winter, we always have more winter staff. And this winter, this upcoming winter, we're actually planning on hiring our biggest instructor staff we've ever had in the history of Adaptive. So we're really hoping to get even more people in the door this year and have plenty of capacity.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so just the marketing efforts in regards to that. What were your goals and benchmarks for these campaigns? How did the results compare to those and how you did? Which we can talk on first and then I can ask you other things.
So my main goal is always to increase awareness and then also just in general receive more registrations, especially like year over year. In the past, I've not really had like benchmarks of what I would see as success. In my future application, like the one I just submitted yesterday, I do have some benchmarks in there of like goals that I have for impressions and clicks and completed registrations from these digital marketing campaigns. But I did go back and look during the 2023-24 season. Our completed registrations specifically from this digital campaign that you guys fund was 313. And then this past winter, we had 684 registrations from the campaign. So it's definitely increasing, and the goal is always to increase every year, hopefully. I mean, I'm sure there's an end point, but just trying to increase every year the registrations.
Okay, and so knowing that that was a 684 registration, would that be overall? Because I'm just trying to now compare that to what you said your participation numbers are or were, which was 266.
Yeah, so we get a lot of registrations that people like decide they can't come, or they, you know, something happens and they have to cancel like either well in advance or last minute. So there's like a ratio of people that register to people who actually come. And so the more registrations we have and the more people are actually coming. So it's like it could be kind of misleading, and then there's also people register and then are on the wait list because then we're at capacity for the days that they can come, and then they never get off the wait list. So they might have registered and been fully like in to come, but then they just never got off the wait list, and they might have even been in Crested Butte and just never made it into Adaptive. So
okay, thanks for that. Let's see. Okay, so this was just regarding your estimation chart. And you use the number of 3.4 people per person is what my assumption is. So is it your understanding that people engage in your program by gear for each person of that? Or, you know, how many meals are you estimating that 4.4 people in Mount CD? I just wanted to have a better understanding of how this chart, of how your estimation was kind of filled out and where you went with that.
yeah, so I don't think that people are buying one piece of gear per person in their family or in their party. But I think it's a good way to average it out of like, okay, this family of 6 came and bought $1,000 worth of gear, but then the next family that came didn't buy anything at all. Because there are people that come to Adaptive that don't have a lot of money and can't really buy gear and actually like rent all of their things. Not rent, we don't rent it to people, they get to use it. Like we have ski pants and gloves and all the things. So they might come to Adaptive and not ever buy anything and just borrow things and rent from us. So that's kind of where I was thinking of it in that way, because it's hard to know how much.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to, it is hard to make these estimations a lot of times. So that 3.4, I guess what I'd be looking for then is, so that would be based, it's not necessarily based on the 260 or the 264 number.
Yeah, I might have done it on that 500 number. Let me see if I can pull it up. 24.
It's like she did on the 3.4 people.
Each person times the.
Times 80 times 264 is $71,808.
Okay. So, sorry, then another.
So it looks like it was $80 per 3.4 per people.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the assumption is, sorry, just correct me if I'm wrong, the assumption is that you use 3.4 people, but maybe your higher average per guest is like 5 or 6. Is that what your assumption is? So are you assuming that like every participant brings 5 to 8 people to average out that 3.4? Does that make sense? You're using a smaller number.
Yes, I think I understand what you're saying, and I think that's right.
Okay, well, maybe just take a look at that a little bit. And you can just email me if that changes. I know it's hard to do a lot of this stuff on the spot, but I think Rebecca has some follow-up questions for the finance stuff specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, hey Jess. I'll skip to those and then I'll go back to my other questions for you, but my questions were regarding your room revenue of 1.6 million. What in your report, you say that there were, the 76 nights that were booked at $245 from the elevation with a total of 25,000 and change in revenue. When I calculate those 76 nights at $245, it's 18,620. So I'm just wondering where that difference, that 7,000 difference in addition that you have allocated in there came from?
I think I added in also the amount of people that stay in Mount CB based on our. So 70% of our summer and our winter, 70% of our participants stay in Mount Crested Butte, based on a survey. Like it's, we don't know for sure, but and then their average amount of nights they stay is 5 nights. So I think I added in that percentage of how many people stay in Mount CB for how many nights into also the elevations revenue that we know for sure that we have. Because I didn't, it was fair to say that the elevation rentals was the only income that we were providing you guys, because I know people stay in Airbnbs or at the Grand Lodge or other places on the mountain.
So are you assuming that 25,000 in revenue is what was spent in Mount CB for hotels, or is 1.6 million what was spent? Because on your chart differs from what you say in your report. And then you also say 5 nights, but then in your report, you say average stay of 6. So it's just all becoming too hard to calculate out of how you got these numbers. And 1.6 million seems absurdly high for the calculations I've been.
So in the report, I'm only talking about the elevation, like the 76 room rentals at 245 for 25,000 in revenue. That's only at the elevation. And then, so the way that you guys made it seem was that I needed to do some estimations based on other hotels and Airbnbs in Mount CB. So that's why I added in the additional like 70% of some of individuals stay in Mount CB, average 5 nights. Like I added that on top of elevation. In
Okay, so I think I get,
calculation.
I think I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying for that 25,000 is you added to that 76 nights that they reported back to you, assuming that people didn't use your booking code at elevation?
No, just like in general at other hotels or other Airbnbs.
So then what is the 1.6 million that you claim in room rental revenue in the chart on your report? How are you getting that number?
So that was me adding in the estimation that I said about the 70% of people staying potentially 5 nights. Like I don't have any, the way you guys told me that I needed to basically make up numbers on this, and I told you that that wasn't possible, and so this is what I came up with. And if you guys want me to go back and just give you the elevation report, that's fine. It's gonna be $25,000, but I know people are spending money in other places other than the elevation. So, and you guys told me that I needed to include that in the report, so that's what I did. So I don't know how else to provide a more accurate number.
Hold on. Just hold on a second. I'm not trying to argue with you or get you frustrated at all. I'm just trying to understand, because when I multiply 76 by 245, I get 18,000, not 25,000. So I'm not understanding where you're getting that extra 7,000 in projection. It's two separate questions from the 1.6 and that. And so you've told me two different ways now how you got that 25, but it's just not making sense. But Roman has a question that might clear it up.
So I'm seeing where you both are coming from. What percentage of the people that used your services stayed at the elevation?
I mean,
70% of the people that use your services stay in Mount CB. Are you able to estimate how many of that 70% stayed at just the elevation? Like how many people that was? Because if it's like 20% of the 70 stayed at the elevation, is the difference between that 20% of those people and 70% making up that $1.6 million in revenue?
yeah, yeah. So I basically, Alicia from the Elevation gives me a report at the end of the season, and she told me that we had 76 room bookings, which then she told me, she gave me the $25,051 in revenue at a $245 average rate. And that's the only concrete numbers that I have for room bookings. And so I don't know, I guess I would have to divide, it's like 90-ish people stay in Mount CB, and I'd have to divide that by the 76 room nights, but I don't know if that's, if those people have already reported in our survey that they're staying. Like it's just really hard to know if that 76 room nights is already being portrayed in our 70% of people that stay in Mount CB in our survey. Like I don't know how to differentiate those two numbers, because I don't know who answered the survey. It's anonymous.
Room night represents one person in their posse staying at the elevation. And 264 people utilized your services. So 264 minus 76 people leaves a difference there. And is that difference what's making up the delta between $25,000 and $1.6 million in lodging revenue?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
Let me ask this, Jess. So you mentioned that Alicia said bookings. Are you talking about bookings or are you talking about room nights? Because bookings.
She said 76 room nights.
Okay. So then let me ask this, are you, with those 3.4 people, are those people staying with your participant or are they staying in their own rooms in your calculations?
Ew. I don't know. I genuinely, you guys, I don't know how to calculate this kind of stuff. Like, it's not, we have no idea. It's like impossible to calculate this. I have no idea how many people are staying in a hotel room if they get a suite versus 4 rooms because their family of 8 came. Like, I genuinely, and I told you guys this, I was really concerned about these calculations. Like, I just don't know a way to get this accurate. And so I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I think, okay, that's why we're asking these questions, because we're trying to get a more accurate estimate, Jess. We understand that it's a hard calculation to do. So we're just trying to figure out how you got to this number so that we can correct how you got this to this number. That's literally all we're trying to do. Normally, Marissa and I be doing this with you, not in front of council, but because reports were late, here we are. So please just bear with us while we ask you through these questions on your grant report.
Okay, well, I don't know the answer to the question, so I can try and
We can circle
look at
back after the meeting when you.
Yeah,
come
I
back.
will work on it tomorrow.
Let me move on to just to clarify your number of participants question that I have, because in your report, I was just confused by the statement of our efforts to increase individual participation is showing results. We provided lessons to 129 individuals, increased from 124 in summer of 23 and 100 of summer 22. I guess I wanted first to understand what individual participation means. And then are these numbers from the summer? Because they're contradicting to the numbers that the 269 or 266, 264. Are those summer numbers or were these winter numbers?
So individual participation just means like the individuals that come to Adaptive that are not through a group or are not our community members. So when we talk about participants at Adaptive, we talk about individuals, groups, or community. And so you guys, this grant is funding marketing for individuals because they're coming on their own, they're supporting themselves, they're staying in their own hotel rooms, versus groups are the ones that come and stay at our facilities and usually are not paying for much when they're here. So that's what individual participation means.
Okay, and just to be clear, each of those individuals that participate with you, we're then estimating that they're bringing 3.4 people with them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions for this applicant. Actually, I do. I'm sorry. I do. But let me just read them real quick to make sure, because I think that'd be probably. Sorry, I have one more question for you. In the report, you say that you don't track information for persons staying outside the accommodations of your accommodations or elevations. But wondering if you mentioned an economic impact survey. And so I'm wondering if that question is included in that survey, or what this economic impact survey is.
Yeah, so the economic impact survey was something that we did, like, I think it was in 2022 that we sent it out. It was like a separate kind of thing that we did in addition to what we give to our participants right now. And so that was like how we got the numbers of like the 3.4 people, an average of 6.9, like all that kind of stuff. But we have a survey that we send, that was like a one-time thing. I'm sure we'll do it again eventually, but that was like a one-time thing. And then we have a different survey that goes out to our participants, like once a month or so. We kind of send it out to, as we get people in and out, we then send them the survey, and then that survey is going to now start including information about this kind of stuff, so that I can start providing you guys a little bit more accurate information of where did you stay, how long did you stay, how many people did you bring, and on average, how much money did you spend at restaurants and retail, that kind of thing. So that will be coming in the next report for this summer.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Jess. That's all I have for you. Council? Further questions?
Okay. Thanks, Jess. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, next up we have Coffee Lab. Let me just get organized here. I apologize. All right, Dewey, you still there? Yes, you are. Can you hear us all right?
I wanted to run away, but I'm still here.
Don't we all? Okay.
Can you come pick me up, Dewey?
I'll be there in 5.
Alright, that's okay. Seriously. All right, the section that I have is the report states that this grant helped extend your business into this winter. Can you just go more detailed with the date changes in comparison to last winter? And do you plan to continue the extended schedule?
Yeah, I believe we do plan on continuing the extended schedule. So we were up, our main extension was that we stayed opened all the way through April. And that was an increase in net revenue of 46%. It wasn't super profitable for the business, at least yet. Obviously, like the more you stay open in April, the more people will know that, the more people will show up in the future, but it was enough to pay for our costs of goods and an employee to be there, and they were happy to be there. So I feel like it was a success, honestly.
Great. Can you just tell us, I'm sorry, so you said you stayed open through April. Was it like a 2-week extension or?
Let's see. It was roughly 3 weeks.
Okay. So, all right, thank you. The grant paid for print media. I just didn't see it listed in your report or the outcomes of those marketing efforts.
I'm sorry that those weren't. Oh,
Yeah, do you just have
yeah.
the outcomes of those efforts by chance?
It was minimal and sad. As far as like the QR response, it was less than the previous season. So, and I think we've talked about this, but just so council knows, yeah, we are not continuing our print media, just for the costs and obviously like what we can show in reporting. Like I obviously can't speak to like how many people looked at it and just decided to come up. But the amount of people that scanned the QR codes was extremely low, like in the like 1 to 10 range. It was not good.
Did your, and this is off the cuff, but did your print ads include like any hour extensions or anything like that? Did it mention like we're open for a longer period of time? It probably was just more of an informational ad.
Yeah, it was more informational. It was like what our hours would be, where we are at, that sort of thing. Actually, we probably didn't even include hours since the hours change throughout the season. I'd have to go back and look to make sure.
Was there any correlation between your busiest days, weekends, or weeks with your higher views and content interactions for social media?
So I can't speak to that right now. Like I said, I'm sorry. I just it's obvious. I just found the questions, but I will take basically all of number 4 to McNick Media, and we will go through and figure out if there are correlations. I have a feeling it's going to be hard to tell if there are, since maybe somebody sees something, but they don't come in until the next day or later that week, or they're coming up, a week or 2 from now. And so maybe they saw it, but like it's going to be difficult to like parse it out on like a day-to-day basis for sure. Yeah, I feel like
it might be a better like month to
Yeah.
month basis is, what you can look at.
I mean, we definitely saw an increase, like month over month, or month over the same month the previous year.
Okay.
And I can get you more detailed information about that.
Yeah, that would be great. And then same thing with the budget report information.
Yes, we will. I'll put together the budget information and get that to you ASAP. And we just hit on A on number 4, but do you want to talk about B or C at all, or you want to move on and get some stuff done?
No, I mean, you just mentioned you would you would talk to McNick.
Yep.
That, so I just assumed that A, B, and C were all included in that.
All right, good. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Town council, do you have any further questions for Dewey and Colin? Okay, great. All right, Dewey, thanks for attending and have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Dewey.
you, Dennis. You have a good night too.
All right, next up we have Gunnison Tough. Just seeing if anyone from the organization is online.
Yeah, I think mine made it.
Okay, great.
I'm on.
So I originally, for town council, just so you guys know, they weren't sure if they were going to make it, so. They did answer some of the questions that we had outlined in the report here already, but I am gonna walk through some of them because. We do have additional questions just based off of some of these answers, Mike, too, just to kind of let you know. So you mentioned an answer that 375 tickets were sold, even though you had 450 attendees, and that was overall, correct? That was for both concerts?
There are actually 3 shows. Yeah, that was for everybody. Yes, that was
Sorry,
for
that
all
was
of
for
them.
everyone?
That was for all
Yeah.
of them.
Okay, yep, and then the remaining tickets, so the 75 tickets.
Those were primarily giveaways to get people in the room because the Crested Butte Center for the Arts scheduled on our dates, and we're drawing people down to town on our big concert date.
What was the concert? This is a random question, but what was the actual concert that was playing, that was in Center for the Arts?
I don't remember. It's some popular band on the Front Range, but we had Woodbox Heroes, who's a bluegrass band. These guys were more a modern genre.
So it was the February show that they.
Yeah, so just the February show, but not the March.
Correct.
Okay.
The other 2
Um,
shows were fairly well attended, but we were in Elevation, which is a smaller venue.
The show in March?
Yes, the show in March was in Elevation.
Got it. Yeah.
Center for the Arts.
Okay. So then you have nights booked as 2, and I was asking if you were just referencing 2 shows, or what were you referencing for the nights that were booked? It says this was your paid lodging, so I assume it was paid for.
The lodging we paid for artists that were coming. That was our lodging cost, is
Okay,
what
so
I
you
understand.
paid for 2 nights of lodging for each band, one in February
Right.
and one in March.
Correct,
One
because
room.
we had donors donate lodging within the town of Mount Crested Butte, which saved on our expense side and on our bottom line.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that one. Let's see. So for number 3, I have the initial application stated that Gunnison Tough would be investing 25,000 towards the event. But if we take your actual budget and subtract funds that Mount CB was awarded, and the money that you'd be returning, it appears the organization only invested 19,050 towards the event. Is that correct?
That's correct, because because we only applied for certain categories of funds, like songwriter fees, sound equipment, and once we hit the budget on that, that's all we got. So like, I was told the sound equipment went way over budget, but we only asked for a certain amount, so that's all we took. So we covered the rest of it. But we didn't show that because there's categories which we didn't apply for grant monies for.
But, sorry, this should be the overall budget?
And Heidi prepared that. I mean, if you have specific costs, I can try and get clarification on it, but they're all buried right now for our events that start tomorrow. So,
Yep, we are all very busy this time of year. I definitely understand that. So if I look at your ad tax grant report budget, are you saying then, do you have a total budgeted event cost of 85,250 was your overall? And then if we look at what we awarded, which was 63,250, so are you saying that your overall budget was not $82,409?
I don't know the answer to that question. That's a Heidi question. So I can't give you that information. I can ask her and we can get the clarification on it, but I don't have that.
No, that was one of my questions, so maybe you can forward, this email that you sent me with the answers, and maybe forward that on to her so she can better address number 3.
Yeah. See if I have other.
And then you said that, yes, with the revenue chart, you mentioned restaurant sales was 13,694. And so that was the total catered food for both
Correct.
events.
Correct.
Okay. And go ahead.
Mike, so that 13,694, you guys paid taxes on that, even though you're a tax exempt organization?
Not that I'm aware of, but we usually, when we buy that stuff from Elevation or whoever it is, we're providing our tax exempt number on that.
So that's
Ticket
not.
sales, we're not. We're collecting the admissions tax on ticket sales.
Right, yeah, you just have it in the chart, that it was collected, so that's why Rebecca's asking the question.
Okay.
So if that could, maybe just double check that with.
Yep.
Heidi.
Sure can. See if
So we attended, Rebecca and I attended, your event in February. And I just had a question about, the live auctions. So you said that the donated money that you received in the live auctions was not included in revenue. Can you just talk about that?
There was one local artist had at the last minute, we were not going to do any live auctions. And he had donated a heart sculpture or iron sculpture that he had donated to us, and we auctioned off at that February event. And it brought $5,000 that was not shown in the revenue that she submitted in the budget.
Okay, were there any other auction events? And if I recall,
No.
recall it being $10,000. Rebecca and I had a conversation because we were there.
Could have been 10. I got this number while she was driving to get stuff set up. So it could have been 10 very well, but it was either 5 or 10.
Okay, if.
But we'll
we
double
could-
check that number.
Yeah, and any other, I guess, donations, because that, shows a different revenue. I would include.
Right.
Donations that you received from both events.
Okay.
Okay, and then. So the original application projected that this event would bring in 95,000 in ROI to the organization. But your report states that the projected net was only 24,000, which contradicts your original application. Can you just talk about that a little bit? If there was maybe just.
Yeah, there are higher costs, higher travel costs. The biggest factor was the Center for the Arts scheduled on us. And, we as nonprofits are supposed to work together with a community calendar, so we're not doing that to each other. And they have yet again done that. I'm not a big fan right now of them for that, because we brought that band in and we're booked them in after we got this, actually before we got this grant request, we had an opportunity to get them and talk through it. And then they scheduled a big front range band that same day. So that hurt our big concert, which was in Founders Square. So.
Yeah.
Who's the artist for their big concert?
Motet.
No.
The Woodbox Heroes.
Okay, yeah, cool. I struggle sometimes when I'm looking at bands who are demographically in different boxes. and understanding that there's maybe a 20% crossover in fan base there or something like that, so to miss a financial projection by 85%, I could accept maybe 40% of your tickets even meandering down the hill, which I don't think happened, but how do you justify that gap? 85% on a missed projection is astronomical.
I agree with you and our board. That's why we're looking at these events going forward for next year. Because they haven't hit the targets we thought we could hit. This isn't a Mountain High Music Festival where we're bringing in, we're bringing emerging artists. We're bringing in, Woodbox Heroes had 5 #1 bluegrass songs at the time when they came and played here, but it didn't permeate into this culture because people didn't recognize the name. They sell out shows all over Tennessee. So, if people don't recognize the name, sometimes they won't come. When we have, we had Ernest here, who's a very big name and very popular, and that show was sold out, but we were in the smaller venue. So
No, for Ernest was February at Lodge Mountaineer
Correct.
Square.
correct, or I'm sorry, he was there, yes, but that helped draw, but it didn't fill the whole room. It didn't fill out everything. So
Yeah, one thing to note, and I know it's not in the report because we don't pay for marketing funds as part of this, but, I didn't see a lot of marketing. I just wanna throw it out there. There's a lot of people that didn't even know that it was happening. So it is something that I wanna look at moving forward.
okay, we will look at that going forward.
I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I finally got a chance to look at this report just yesterday, so I have some additional questions. And I apologize, our email at the town has been down all day. I tried emailing them to you guys this morning, but they kept bouncing back to me, so I'm gonna wing it from on the spot for you. So please just do your best at answering these. On your original application, you project an ROI to the town of $7,313 and change, but are reporting only estimating a return of $3,110 and change. Can you explain why there's such a large variation in these projections?
I can't, I didn't run those numbers, but I will forward that on to Heidi. We'll get an answer on the difference.
Okay, and then I also have a question on your projected room revenue. You mentioned that you have got songwriter lodging at $3,890.30, which we see was taken from the Mountain CD tax grant, and that you're returning on it. But wondering where that remaining $12,506 in estimate for room lodging was coming from.
Again, it's a Heidi question. I'll have to forward it to her. She compiled all these numbers and gave me the report, and I drew the short straw to get it come tonight, so.
Okay, this is why we do ask that somebody who can represent the event and the grant be here. Just for future reference, we prefer someone that can answer these questions to be able to be here. Moving
Which I
on.
appreciate it, and we had offered to provide answers to this after our event, and you guys said, no, you need to be here, so we're here.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, about that. That is definitely not the end. Or you could have had us the numbers back in May, Mike, and we wouldn't be sitting here wasting everybody's time tonight. Couple options, right?
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I have a few more. I'd like to also know about your retail revenue and why it's zero. Merchandise was being sold at your event, which I personally bought a piece. Does this mean that you did not collect and remit sales tax on the merchandise you were selling?
I do not know the answer to that one, but we will look into it.
You mentioned in your report that your organization needs to do better marketing in the future for these winter events. Have you considered hiring a marketing agency to help? And what are you considering doing to get the word out more?
We will consider a marketing agency. Our experience the last time with the marketing agency and CB was not successful. That's why we did not use them this time or ask for funds for them. We'll continue. If we move forward with these events, we will look at what marketing can be done to get more people into the venues.
Awesome, thank you. And then my last questions are just, based on the ad tax grant budget report that was submitted, there's some confusion underneath your in-kind donation supported by other organization column. You list under lodging that there was a $17,000 supported, but that the total actual cost was only $3,890. And so I'm wondering if these rooms actually cost $21,890 and $17,000 was comped, or where are we getting 17,000?
I'll have to look into that. But some of the artists stayed at private residences, so that was donated by the donor. So it was an in-kind donation. So we need to separate that for you versus what was given to us in discounts through the elevation.
Okay, right. So then the actual cost is gonna be your total cost for lodging, not just what was used for the grant when you
Correct.
recap. Okay.
Correct.
And same for venue rental. The actual cost says that it was $14,719.44, with $1,500 coming from grant funds and the remaining $13,000 from your organization. But then there's also a $5,000 under the in-kind column. So I'm just.
That was the 5,000 was what Elevation sponsored the event for.
So the actual cost was $19,719. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I do know that one.
I just have one question for Mike. Seeing how, it seems like almost every number Heidi submitted on this report is absolutely worthless. So I'm trying to figure out, do you think this is a good use of taxpayer dollars when we're getting zero information back that's accurate? We're being forced to chase numbers that are totally inaccurate, and the ED of your organization didn't even update you on any of these numbers, and we're giving you $63,000. Does that, in your personal opinion, seem like a good use of tax dollars?
Absolutely. Because we brought artists here that wouldn't be here without sponsoring them to get up here. Artists are expensive, very expensive. And in order to get them to come to Mount Crested Butte, we need to pay them to get here. And unfortunately, we didn't have the attendance that we wanted, but we got some awareness for the mountain. We got these people here. And if we continue with this program, which is a big question mark with this organization, whether we do these winter concerts going forward, you know, we may have to go back to smaller ones and smaller artists and smaller requests. You know, this was half of what we asked for the year before because we had the same issue, getting people up on the mountain to attend these concerts in an après-ski environment that goes to 10 o'clock at night. So.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No, okay. All right, thank you. We are going to be moving on to.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
We will be moving on to Jose Crested Butte for the March Meltdown event. And I did see. He's here, I see him. Crystal, yeah, you're there. Hi.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me? All right.
Yeah, yep, we can hear you great. And these should be pretty short and quick. So the gross revenue from the program that benefited the town, you already said yes to this, I know, in an email, but it just was the wrong figure I think you put in there, but it was 33,481. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, you put it in the right place in the tax collected, it was just in the gross revenue. That
Yep.
benefited the town.
Yeah, the 3,481. Yeah, I
Yeah.
corrected that real quick. Sorry about the error on that one.
No, that's okay. So your report mentions how you'd like to move forward next year with similar programming, but we'll consider reducing the number of funded music nights in favor of allocating more towards higher profile acts that tend to generate greater revenue, which we have heard from another applicant too. Could you just explain what that revision would look like? You know, if it would just enhance weekend traffic to make up for slower days in the week, or if you would keep some weeknights, or if you thought about that?
Yeah, that was just a thought on other considerations. And since we've thought kind of more, we'd probably like to stick, you know, in future applications with doing what we did last year. We found it very successful. Even though there was some visitation issues within Mount Crested Butte, and just numbers kind of showed that across the board. But In the new application you guys will see coming out, we'll definitely be asking for just a similar ask to last year because we thought that the additional 35 nights of music was really important in creating just a consistent opera scene at the base area. So, we might look to using some of our own funds down the road or seeing who else might want to partner up on a larger event. So I guess that's kind of next, and we'll probably be asking for something similar to last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably a good strategy, just like going into a second year of not changing so much, so you can kind of see the differences and see if it is working for your organization. Sometimes it just takes longer than that first initial year. Those were all my questions. Rebecca, did you have any?
No, I had no further questions for
And
this.
sorry, I said March Meltdown and I meant the winter music.
Hey, yeah. Yeah, no, I got you there. Again, yeah, sorry guys to be late on this. Me and Alicia both thought that it was just 90 days after, so we did not read clearly enough. We'll take full ownership over that one on our end. And yeah, it won't happen again moving forward. So definitely appreciate all you guys do and helping out. I think it was awesome. Both events were awesome for us. So thanks again.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. Does town council have any further questions just in regards to the winter music part, and then we'll move on to the March Madness one? No, okay. So then just moving on quickly to March Meltdown. What did I have? Oh, so just your application said that you'd be investing a certain amount of money, so 7,792 into the concert series, but according to your report, the actual budget was 28,350, which was the exact same amount of the grant. Was that done in error, or did the grant just pay for the whole entire thing?
Yeah, that was done in error. So Jose did invest $7,638, which we put back in, and I forwarded you I know there's no revisions on it, but I forwarded you the new application showing that, or the report. So it was an error.
Time to look at any of that, but okay, so you did end up investing that 7,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Rebecca, you didn't have anything else?
No, I have no additional questions. Thank you, Christian.
Town council, you good? Okay, great. Thanks, Christian. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Christian.
All right. Yep. Thanks, everyone.
So the next one that I have listed is actually Tin Cup. And you'll just see that we did not receive a report from Tin Cup. They didn't respond to any of our staff emails regarding a report, deadline, or extension, before this meeting. So I just do want to say some of the attitude that we have received tonight is attitude that Rebecca and I deal with on a regular basis when we do these reports. When we're asking questions, when we're asking for clarifying questions, and we try to ask them in the nicest way possible, trying to explain that we just want details, but it's really hard when we're met with an attitude almost of, I deserve this funding, and why are you even asking me these questions? It can be really challenging, and it's hard. And there's no easy way around that, so.
Can we add vibe to the review?
I mean,
Yeah.
Say the semi-serious.
I,
Doesn't have to be vibe,
that's
but
a Nick
I like
question, I suppose, but.
We shift all of this money to transportation.
Give it to me, it's in my budget.
Believe it.
Can I voice what might be an unpopular opinion of taking a step back and understand, just making sure that the questions that you're asking really truly are like points that you will act upon or not, just making sure we're not asking too much. And that we're gonna use the answers to the questions that we get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the way that I've looked at all the questions that we ask, they're just questions in the report that we're asking for clarification on. So it's not like we're creating new questions, essentially. It's that maybe they haven't even put anything like Dewey didn't even list anything underneath additional considerations. So that leaves town staff to ask, why aren't there any additional considerations? Did this program go well or not? The other thing is because we're taxpayer dollars and this is tax money that taxpayers are paying for, we feel like we have a really strong responsibility to fully understand where this money is going, how it's supporting the town, and if it's worth investing in organizations in the future. So I think I totally understand where you're coming from, but from a perspective of, staff, we just wanna make sure that. Because if not, then let's just go ahead and say, you get 5,000, you get 10,000, you get 15, boom, we don't care what you do with the money. Doesn't matter to us, which, we could do. So.
And used to do, by the way, again, just to convey some history.
Take a sweet walk down memory lane.
That was Roman and I started all this stuff, cause that is how we used to do it. We had let's say we had 100K to give away and we had 10 applicants, like it was pretty common to be like, let's give about 10K and then do like a 7-minute agenda item.
It evolved greatly from
It
that.
did evolve from that.
We had questions and it became this thing where we were vetting people like in the meeting. We were doing this, in the meeting. Which these two are trying to do ahead of time and seeing what they're doing now. In the meeting, it should be done elsewhere. It's pretty rugged to watch. Yeah, but I totally hear your point. I mean, I don't think they're asking questions that they're like gotcha questions of like, oh, let's stump the applicant. It's like, how did you come up with $1 million? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is there some?
I felt for like Jessica when she was trying to identify how many hotel nights were, used by like adaptive. I'm like, I don't know if that's relevant. I don't understand the relevancy of that question or how she would even be expected to come up with that.
And I
Just
mean,
a quick suggestion, we have an agenda item that's after this. Could we have this discussion in that agenda item? We're still on the reports, are we not?
we are still on the reports. Actually, what I was going to suggest is we do a guideline, like application revision. Every year that we'll do in the fall. And we can, take a look at, the chart is a hard one. I do have to say, like, it's a hard one for some organizations to estimate. But with that being said, it is pretty easy to put these questions in a survey, which Jess is going to be doing. So I understand the initial frustration, but I think we can revisit that for another conversation. I don't know that Nicholas, it matches the report, maybe it does because it's the reporting. But it's something we can look at and look at the application as a whole and say like, what pieces are we missing here? What do we need to shift and
Thanks.
Yeah, I think with the availability of staff to work on these grants, pretty much all of this is unacceptable. Because my experience is that any questions that I might have or confusion, I've always been able to contact you all and get clarification on. So that's, while I'm very flexible in the moment in general, just like looking at a piece of paper, that doesn't add up at all. The thought initially is gonna get 2 strike. You miss a deadline and you can't answer a question adequately, you take a year off. But I also agree that there's clearly a larger conversation to be had, because you guys shouldn't be dealing with any of that. But I will also say that knowing what nonprofit staff can sometimes be expected to do in terms of workload, that's probably not them not liking us. So, I didn't appreciate it, and it's certainly not acceptable professional acumen. I don't understand how anybody would do that on public record if they were hired by a board. But, that being said, I think it's a response, maybe like as a symptom, something, there's a pinch point here in the process.
That's how I feel. That's how I am interpreting some of the fiction.
But I will also add one other thought, I think like ROI type stuff. There might be some conversations of that type of thing being onerous for a nonprofit staff that doesn't have a marketing department or even real concepts of how to track those numbers through the year. And so expecting them to kind of come reporting time to sort of create that entire position Where I will say that I'm not seeing, I understand why it would be on this application, but I'm not seeing it on a lot of other grant applications. You know, whereas that's different from, I crunched your numbers and those don't add up. They need to add up, but, you know, capacity should be considered to some degree with the application.
Well, it feels like lodging when you're holding a concert series in a hotel is a pretty foundational piece of ROI that you should be tracking.
Sure, but I think she's right in saying that there are a lot of shadows there and your ability to accurately account.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But having a process in place, this was how we got to this number. It generally just felt like tonight that, well, it felt like a lot of folks didn't do their homework, basically. And it's a hyper disrespectful approach, in my opinion, considering you're giving people tens of thousands of dollars, 63,000 to Gunnison Top. To see some of these, what I would consider pathetic returns, they should be addressed. I mean, they really should, and we should be saving this money and putting it towards new Mountain Express lines or other things that have really deep community impacts. Because I'm not seeing the community impact from this money right now in some of these channels, you know? And I would just like to see us either stretch those dollars or at least have a pool of applicants who really appreciate it to the point that they can follow there's one rule, that's it. I mean, you have one rule to follow. So to me, when you can't hit that, it speaks to something else. And it is lack of staffing, it's time, it's those type of things, but it's also about, I usually put my priorities at the top of my task list and I move the lower priority things down. If I know I'm gonna lose my entire budget for an event next year, it's number one on my list. It just is, you know? So I struggle to understand why somebody would send their attorney with bullshit numbers. I can't figure out in my mind who sat around and thought, this is a really good idea.
He's the board president, but yeah, either way.
Oh, okay.
Either way.
Okay, yeah, I'll spare my next layer of judgment, then I'm just saying. That there should be a level of preparation that shows a respect for all of our time in here. And if you want to work out the amount of time that the staff is putting in, and then we sit here and listen to the questions they should have answered 60 days ago, something's got to change here.
Yeah, I would just like to give you some history of Adaptive because they have been applying for a very, very long time with us. They're one of our longest running applicants, if not the longest. And until 2 cycles ago, we never made them crunch those numbers. So 2 cycles ago, because we make all other applicants do it, we required it of them. We worked very extensively with them of how to project those numbers, estimate those numbers. We have open lines of communication that they could have called and been like, I'm having trouble crunching these numbers. So for us to ask questions on their numbers, there is a sensitivity point because they don't want to do that because they didn't have to do it for years and years and years and years. And so we've given them 2 cycles of holding their hand through crunching those numbers. I don't know why they didn't reach out this time or why they don't understand why we're asking these clarifying questions about how they got these numbers when we've worked so closely with them to get numbers beat. Because these numbers are much higher than any of their other return years. And so that's where these questions really were diving into because I'm not understanding after working with them for 2 previous cycles on getting these numbers, how she came to these numbers. When I calculate these numbers that she's thrown at us, none of them add up in any way. Okay. And I, with my accounting background drove me crazy on that one, so.
I think one thing I'd love to walk away from, sorry to interrupt, is
No,
that
you're fine.
the person who submitted the application is the person who shows up, and if they can't, then that's a knock on them, and I'm very sorry. So that was a huge waste of it.
That is up to you guys in our guideline changes,
Yeah,
you know.
we gotta change that.
Carlos?
Yeah. I wanna just make one, or if I may ask to make one comment and one comment from the crowd. Which kind of goes with what Steve was saying, is, correct me if I'm wrong, we provided these folks questions coming in tonight's meeting.
The only
And
questions they
still-
didn't receive were mine because of our email issue.
But they were still.
They're in the packet.
They were still unprepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marissa, if you could email those to me.
Yeah, so I mean, that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's just a sign of. To me, from the crowd of not caring enough, I guess. And one suggestion, if I may, and it might pertain to motion, but I might direct it at Rebecca and Marissa first. Tin Cup just blew us off completely. And they might just be done forever, but should we do a motion that says Tin Cup for
Well,
this next cycle, you're out, just so
yeah,
you don't
our
have to.
guidelines state that, so.
But just to give you that extra back,
Yeah.
anytime
Yeah,
you may
council,
apply.
it's up to the council per our guidelines, but that would be great.
Yeah.
It also says the applicant, so it says the applicant is required to attend town staff presentations of the report to town council and may be expected to answer any follow-up questions the council has. If the applicant fails to show up for the report presentation, they will be barred from applying for any Mount Crescent View Town grant 1 year from the time of their report. So until we receive their report, they will not be allowed for a grant funding.
Can we get our money back?
So the guidelines, right underneath reporting, that we're gonna look at, and maybe this is.
Well, again, we do revisit the guidelines annually, so that's an opportunity for discussion. We're currently in a grant cycle right now, are we not?
Tomorrow.
Starts tomorrow, closes at 8 AM tomorrow.
Okay, so we're not making changes to the application for those folks.
No.
So we have a period of time here that if we want to change the guidelines or eliminate this program altogether. We can do that. We can't do it for tomorrow. So this next cycle is gonna happen, and then for cycles after that, we can change these guidelines if we want.
So number 5 underneath reporting sites, if the applicant fails to provide all data that the report is requesting, does not report at all, or does not fill out the report accurately to the best of their ability, council reserves the right to seek reimbursement of funds, and the applicant may be precluded from applying for admissions tax grant funds in the future. That's stated in number 5 of our guidelines are in 3. So that is really up to you guys, however you wanna deal with that.
What was the?
My other thought was that Tin Cup and Cup, they are absolutely not going to be, right? It would be shocking to me if they comported themselves the way they did this evening with full intention to continue to apply for the ITAX grant program, but I could be wrong. But Tin Cup strikes me like they've got to know at least part.
Yeah, you're kind of thrown.
Yeah, like, I'm inclined, yeah, man, I need to chill.
Now, question really quick, I know, I kind
Deep breath, Alec, I can feel it from over here.
of, now question, our next, are we in 9.4?
We are not yet.
Not yet.
I'm moving there. Well,
We sure could though.
I just wanna piggyback what you're saying, and I think we should. But if we change things in 9.4 right now, like the Mulligan rule, that would apply tomorrow,
Yes.
Yes.
just to be
But the
clear.
mulligan
Yeah.
rule's not in the guidelines, so that's easy to
Yeah.
change.
Okay.
I'm just saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not gonna make substantive changes to the guidelines on this tomorrow.
Sure, gotcha.
Just
I
the
thought it-
reporting, equaling the deadline.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, our contract.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to state that, so then when we go through the cycle and I get a contract written. That the written contract is what
Yes.
everybody have to. And then we will have a full work session on guidelines and application and report in the fall.
For possible elimination of the program.
Possibly, yeah, we can talk about that, or an extreme reduction.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
and that's probably more like it, by the way, but I do wanna talk about it, this is, it's really difficult to get away from.
And if, man,
Please.
and not to prolong the conversation, but I think if the desire is to ask Tin Cup for the money back, that would require a motion from the council, just so you know. And then also, what I could potentially see, and we've seen it with other applicants, is Rebecca and Marissa follow the guidelines and are the bearer of bad news to some of these applicants. And then their MO is to go above them. And the ultimate authority is the council. So again, that's why I made the suggestion, and it's just a suggestion. If we wanna bar Tin Cup for not reporting, it helps, I would imagine it would help Marissa and Rebecca if they have to have that conversation, is that the council has already taken action, and denied your application for the next cycle. So I'm just throwing out, and maybe I'm wrong, you can tell me if you agree or disagree, but I just wanted to get ahead of things potentially with Tin Cup, if that's what you were inclined to do, and I am making the assumption that you might be, and I could be wrong on that as well.
For me, I don't, so it seems like there's two things, there's.
Reimbursement and-
There's pushing them out for a year, and then there's reimbursement. Reimbursement to me does not seem like the way to go, as like satisfying as that would be. But assuming they do a report and they spent the money correctly, then to me, it's just moving forward, and then it's just like, do we want to deal with these folks again? And I'll just throw out too, that's another way that we can deny people, is that we can deny them new funding based on their past performance. It doesn't necessarily have to be by operation of the rule. We could just say, hey, we didn't like what you did last time, we're not giving you any money.
We
This
can
time.
do those things.
But nobody ever does.
Nobody ever has.
It can be changed.
Well, no, for the record, you just haven't swayed council to think that is. It's on you.
We can.
I have no.
We just didn't agree with you.
I'm just gonna sit here and just say that sometimes when I see a pattern in a number of people, I think about the fact that, oh, hey, maybe there's something wrong with the system, where all of these people are reacting in the same way that seems really out of character and unprofessional. And so either, yeah, it's just sort of common buddy knowledge, like, oh, everybody's just like, oh, working with town councils like worse, and with, Mount CB staff, and they all just get together and bitch about us. Or there are some real pain points here that people are experiencing that is leading them to be in this state. So I just want to keep our mind a little bit open, and yes, I've been at this table like not quite as long as the rest of you, but maybe we could have a moment of empathy for what they are also experiencing in some circumstances. I'm not gonna give, unprofessional behavior, credit, but maybe we can also look at what we are doing and see if there's ways that, how can we get some outreach from them? Like, okay, if you are really so frustrated with this, give us some feedback. Like, what are you frustrated about?
So we invite all applicants to every town council meeting that we discuss these things.
Have the bandwidth? Like, I mean.
Can I offer a little clarification, having gone through?
Yeah, and I wanna jump in
Yeah.
real quick too, I agree with you, Galita, and probably almost any other circumstance. This one to me is unique though, in that we are giving away money. It is literally a gift of cash, and so. To some extent, if I put myself in their shoes, and I might say this process is onerous and time consuming and we don't have the bandwidth for it, then to me, I don't apply. So that's kind of my decision point. If I am gonna take many tens of thousands of dollars, then I'm in 100% and I'm gonna follow all the rules. And so that's how I view it. If this were some other process, if it were a building permit or something like that, and what you mentioned, I agree with you, like. If everyone's having the same heartburn about it, then maybe we have a problem with our process, but in this case. It's free money. And so. I kind of think what we're asking people to do is play by the rules or don't take the money.
And it would
How
appear
many-
that way.
I also feel there were only 2 applicants out of the 6 technically, because Tin Cup doesn't count, that really had an issue with their reporting.
Okay.
As where like the other 4 were pretty smooth, and
Okay.
the only reason there was a little bit of extra question is because we didn't get that extra time to mitigate ahead of time.
There was really.
But I do appreciate.
And to follow
that
on to that,
you-
Belita, we are gonna discuss guidelines again, and so I think. That opens the discussion wide open for any ideas that any of us have.
Great.
To either make this better or my idea to eliminate it.
Did you say?
I think I mentioned that earlier. I'm kind of joking, by the way,
but.
What was that?
20%.
Alex, what were you gonna say?
I mean, kind of something like that is that, having gone through the process, there was never any moment in which the confusion wasn't on my side. Like, they were always available to answer everything and not sort of at scheduled meetings. I could have called them up or dropped them a line at any time, and all of my questions or concerns would have been answered. All of them. Also, right, not the majority of applicants. And within even these, four, there's really three organizations, and, at least the majority of them were willing to show up and have a conversation, even with some pinch points, we got there, right? And so I don't know that anybody else on council, even though I'm speaking for them, is like ready to, cut fat everywhere or something like that. This is clearly a big problem, and I think we're coming at it, we're just saying it differently. Clearly, there's a problem with the process that we need to address. But also, that was unacceptable.
Bobby?
And Bobby, the rule follower, you make a list of what's required of the grant. People sign a document and a contract that says, I will follow these rules.
Super simple.
And it's not only that, and it will say, and if you don't follow the rules, this is what will happen. And then we're discussing, well, maybe we should give them another chance and we shouldn't follow our rules. I mean, if you're gonna make rules, make them follow them through. And I'm really sorry that these people didn't do that, but if I'm writing a grant, you better believe I'm gonna stay on top of it. It just doesn't make sense. It was embarrassing for these people, but that's a lot of money and it's a gift.
Well, mistakes happens, but you gotta eat crow if you did. You can't just be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
They're not really.
Some would say sorry, I drew the short end of the straw.
Stop dealing with you, Nimrod.
That was not. Thank you, Bobby. You're absolutely.
Thanks, Bob.
There's no more.
What's that? Yeah, are we done with reports?
Yeah, we're done with reports unless something wanted to be done about that I don't think, doesn't sound like there is. So there's really,
Have they
I mean-
submitted an application for the next cycle?
no, not yet.
They're gonna submit
I
it
didn't
tonight.
put a motion on there because these are just reports. I typically just go through reports and see if you guys have questions or not.
But if we're to submit, what would our response at staff level?
It would be to follow the guidelines that state. I mean, unless town council wants to,
No, you don't.
do it.
Right, so now we know that we have the council's backing to deny the app.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be denied. I would take the report, we'd still present the report to town council, and from that date of the report, they would be barred for a year.
But they would have to apply by 8 AM tomorrow.
And submit the report by.
Yeah, they would have to submit the report before they can apply. So if they apply without submitting the report, that's just, we
yeah,
can't
you
accept it.
I'm just preparing for the possibility.
No, thank you.
Yeah, because it will.
It's
It
gonna
happens.
happen.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's a struggle for us to have to tell someone no with the worry that they might come to you and get a different answer. Not to say you would, but, and this would cut that off. They would say they've already taken action on it. That's the only reason I make this.
Yeah.
But I've said it enough times, and so.
I would personally just like to see you all follow the rules and do that according to the rules.
And moving forward, I'm curious how we can continue to have your back and how to navigate this process, because it's tough.
I think that when we get to guideline revisions and rubric revisions in the fall, we'll have a list of how you can help us in that way. And some suggestions of how to change things to be able to do it.
All right, moving on. Admissions tax, what?
It's like I planned.
It's like we never left.
Admissions tax grant guidelines, change approval, deadline specific. Marissa.
Yeah, so we had a brief work session about this earlier, and I think it's something that we're talking about right now, right? But, basically, this time of year is just really hard for our staff and staff schedules to get reporting done and things like that. So what we'd like to do is, instead of the guidelines stating what the deadlines are based on days, is that it is just by, the contract that they sign. So that's why we ran into this issue tonight too. Their contract said one thing, their deadline said the other. I'm happy to do that, to see that as what it is. But also a part of the motion that I'm saying here too is that, while we have our guidelines saying no exceptions will be made to this rule, we have always permitted people to do a one-time exception and be late for the reports. After tonight, everyone that has applied for an ad tax grant has been late at least one time. So I would like to, I'm proposing to just get rid of that as like a courtesy from town council, so we can be really consistent. And so we don't continue to move down this, because what happens is exactly like what we're here tonight. Is essentially what it is, rather than me being able to be like, appreciate it, your report is denied, and I will get to it when I can get to it, essentially saying that like, well, not denied, sorry, but we've accepted your report, this is the date of the report, it's late, and now you are barred for a year from applying again. And then that will give me adequate time to actually follow up with them, go through the report, and it won't happen like it did tonight. Because if we do the one-time exceptions, then we do end up in a spot like this where Rebecca and I can't tell you how stressed out I've been in the past few weeks from this. This is a really, it's timing of 4th of July. It's everything.
It's 5 events we did
Like,
past
you
month.
know, and so it's just really a hard time, and I just wanna be able to make it so there's just a little bit more alleviation for staff, which would be why we would like to just be able to have it in a contract and guidelines.
I move that the town council approve the proposed clarification to the reporting section of the Mount Crested Butte grant guidelines as follows. Applicants are required to submit their event or program report by the deadline specified in their signed contract. Failure to do so will result in the applicant being ineligible to apply for any Mount Crested Butte town grant for 1 year from the time they submit their report to the town. No exception will be made to this rule. Furthermore, I move that town council formally acknowledge that while past applicants have been granted a one-time exemption to the reporting deadline, this was done outside the scope of the current guidelines. Going forward, no such exemptions will be permitted, and all applicants will be held the same reporting standard as outlined in the guidelines.
Extra bonus motion.
Second.
I don't think we get to say the rest, but that's okay.
No, that's all. Yeah, I did. I could have said so moved.
So a motion from Alec and a second from Roman, sorry, I had little things going on, is that right?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so a motion from Alec and a second from Roman, the motion as stated, and I think is also the for motion in the packet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? Carlos?
With one question, if I may, is the year language. Is the year language intended should it need further clarification of 2 cycles? Is that what we mean, or do we mean something different?
No, it's a year from their date of the report, so they could potentially miss 3 cycles.
And, let me see, I think it says that for any town of Mount Crested Butte grant, so this would count for the community grant as well. And we did that on purpose.
Yeah, no, thank you for answering that. Thank you for taking the question.
Yeah, anything else on this one? Shannon, vote please.
Steve,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Lita,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Mayor Kim.
Yes. Next is ordinance 11, series 2025, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Mount Crested Butte, Colorado, reenacting chapter 19 of the town code of the town of Mount Crested Butte, Colorado, in order to align tax administration and enforcement processes through the town's taxation system. First reading. Town attorney Nick Klein and finance assistant Kirsten McHugh. Thank you.
May I do one thing real quick for this? Sorry, Nick, I don't know if everyone here has been with us for over a year. But she hasn't been in front of the council many times enough, so I just wanted to introduce her. Just really quick, she's been a great addition to the town, we're happy to have her. And this is her first big, this is it, in the council world. So I just want to do that introduction real quick. Nick, take it away.
Thanks, Carlos. This ordinance is obviously very long, and you'll notice there weren't any red lines accompanying the document. The reason for that is for these longer code rewrites, it's easier and better for the codifiers, in this case our E-code folks online, to just have a plain restated code to go off of. That way there's no confusion as to what needs to be included online. I will say that there aren't really any substantive changes to the tax code. The real changes here are just tightening things up and then making sure that the town's sales tax and then the lodging and admissions tax all have the same enforcement and collection system. Town staff has had issues with kind of trying to administer all the systems together. And it's confusing when the collection or enforcement systems for the sales tax are different from that of the lodging tax when they really shouldn't be, since folks are filing both at the same time and collecting both at the same time. Happy to answer any follow-up questions, but that's really the gist of the ordinance.
Kirsten. Oh, sorry, Kirsten, thank you for waiting this long. I move to approve order 11. I don't know, sorry.
No, that's fair. I printed one copy because it's 77 pages, so if anyone wants to see the red line version.
And we can have that at second reading if you approve first reading.
Kirsten, thank
Well,
you
he-
for
he
sending
made a
that
motion.
to us before the meeting.
I sure did.
And I just opened it up, so as you're presenting, you can look at the
You
red
did?
lined one if you just
Hasn't
open
been
your mail. And it's so much easier to figure out what's going.
Very.
Sorry, Deb.
No, thanks, Bobby.
All right,
So I think Steve made a motion.
You
I seconded.
seriously?
You did second. it.
No, yeah, no, we have further discussion
have
if
anything
if
that
I
you-
glossed over
No,
anything.
no.
So a motion from Steve and a second from Alec to approve ordinance 11, series 2025 first reading. Any further discussion? Roman?
I gotta ask something to see, you know. So in 19-20, number 14. Page 1921. Yes,
That's
No.
71?
no, it's, the top of the page is 19-20,
Okay.
and then it's number 14, the red line is total price paid for lodging services by a consumer, including any fee, surcharge, or other service charge paid. Everything levied by whatever rental agency is that's taxable. So like, I thought certain services weren't taxable.
And that was one of the things we cleared up in ordinance 4 earlier this year, was a confusion. People were taxing them differently, but our intent, what I understood from the code, was to tax everything that a customer pays. Some or different towns have, if it's an optional like fee, then maybe they won't tax it, but we haven't had that be an issue, so we're just saying everything a customer pays is taxable, including cleaning fees, their credit card fees, everything.
What about things like, is it separate, like land trust? The land trust,
1%.
1%. Is that separate or is that considered taxable? Based from
I would think it would be separate because it's sort of like below, that's like after the transaction, right? Like.
Yeah, that's taxed. Hi, Emily here. That's taxed on their calculation of their gross amount. That's not included in the calculation for our taxes. So our taxation is calculated on the gross sales. And then it's a percentage of that. The land trust doesn't factor into that at all.
So moving forward, literally everything that the customer paid is charged for is
That
taxed.
is required of the customer in order to short-term rent.
And what about all goods and services?
Yes, I mean, like if you have to pay a short-term rental and you can't opt out of a cleaning fee, it's included in the service, it's included in your rental, then that is taxable.
What about other services that aren't short-term rentals, restaurants, anything else, like literally everything?
I'm not familiar with that being a thing included. And plus, if like restaurants are subject to a different tax, that's the retail and food sales tax. So that is separate.
Correctly, which doesn't necessarily apply to this code update. That's just regular retail and stuff, I guess.
Right, yeah, 'cause like
Sorry,
if
can
you're-
you?
That number 14 is just applying to the excise tax,
Yeah.
that's where I was getting a little lost.
Yeah, and I started
Where's excise
bringing in
tax?
other industries into my question.
Yeah.
So that's.
Is it okay for that answer though for?
Thank you, yeah.
And then actually I really appreciate you bringing that up though. There was one thing, so also thank you for requesting the red line, because as I was compiling the 4 or 5 versions we had into one red line document, I did notice, and I didn't get a chance to tell Nick this, that there was one suggestion that he had made on 145 to clarify the same topic of saying charges will apply to the entire amount instead of saying the price. And so, I'm not sure the exact terminology, but we're hoping that that's a small enough change that we can read that or have that updated at the second reading. And since it's still not changing any of the content, we might be okay with that, but I do have handouts if anyone would like to read that on 19145, 154.
If you could just please note that for second reading, that it was a change from first.
Absolutely, thank you. 19154 will be added in the second reading. You can keep that.
Right, anything else?
Make you feel like you're staying around for something,
Sure,
yeah. Flex it.
All right, anything else on this one? We're ready for a vote.
Bobby,
Yes.
Belita. Yes. Roman.
Yes.
Yes.
Steve.
Yep.
Mayor Campbell.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is ordinance 8, series 2025, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Mount Crested Butte, Colorado, repealing and reenacting chapter 14 of the code of the town of Mount Crested Butte to clarify the town's nuisance regulations. This is second reading. Neil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councilors. This ordinance proposes a comprehensive update to chapter 14 of the town code, which governs nuisances, which includes the enforcement of noxious weeds. So our intent was modernize and simplify the enforcement process, making it more effective and easier to administer. This was heard at first reading by council back on June 17th. There were no amendments. It is back before you at second reading with no changes from the version that you previously reviewed and approved.
I move to approve ordinance number 8, series 2025, second reading.
Just had one point of clarification, observation.
Second.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Second.
Second.
Oh, we have a motion from Roman and a second from Alec.
Yeah.
To approve ordinance 8, series 2025, second reading. Any further discussion, Steve?
Yeah, number 1, observation, staff observe nuisance conditions from public right of ways. Can that? Well, is there anything else other than a staff observation in person that can meet that need? A shared video, for example.
Nick worked diligently on this with Leah, so I'll defer to Nick if you'd like to weigh in on that, Nick.
Sure, yeah. Usually how these start is PD or someone from staff just taking pictures from town right of way. But other times I've had nuisance enforcement issues where neighbors are the folks that are being our star witnesses. So there's a couple ways that, you know, these initial observations can start. There's also always possibility of emergency access to to an area if the emergency circumstances are existing, or if someone invites us onto their property and we notice it from there.
Gotcha, so a resident could send a video to town staff of a nuisance in progress, and that could meet the standard for observation?
Yeah, I would probably have the town staff follow up on that, and just confirm that those nuisance conditions exist. But there definitely can be cases where the neighbors are our star witnesses, and honestly, the neighbors are sometimes better than staff, because if you're trying to put a case on and for the judge, it's a lot easier for a neighbor to say, I've walked out of my door for the past 3 weeks and every single day I've seen this condition existing.
Thanks.
Anything else on this one? Shannon?
Rita,
Yes.
Roman.
Yes.
Alec.
Yes.
Bobby.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Rinkerman.
Sorry?
Yes?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Did I miss him?
Thanks,
You don't have to,
No,
right?
it's-
Gotta mix up the order to keep everybody awake.
I feel like that's a little game that he plays. How can we mix up the order now?
I think she does it so she doesn't put the first person on the spot. or the
Well,
last person.
yes, there's also that, but I also think she gave us, because my.
Something I've been fascinated about, we should talk about.
Speaking of games, I do wanna know what is the record for longest motion made in CV Town Council chamber? I'm curious, so that got my.
That was really close.
I really thought it was a separate paragraph, but.
Section. Sometimes you gotta read the whole intro of the ordinance and know the building code adoption ordinance once is
Oh.
been out there. There's a lot of away from having to do it, but
Now I have a goal on the section.
Keep an eye out.
What's Alex plan to do?
That monster motion.
We'll get you a plaque.
With the.
I want the t-shirt, both sides.
It's a really long plan. All right, next is town manager's report.
just have a few things to add or to get clarification on, or just let you be aware of. One, the Nordic Inn has not submitted a new application within the 40-day period in the development agreement, so the town is now pursuing, according to the agreement, the $1.05 million payment that is due. So more to come on that. They are actually now past the deadline to pay. But we sent a notice the moment it was due, and now we're following up, so just an update there, and add an update to what in my report, we're kind of taking a no stone left unturned approach for the Cinnamon Mountain Road stabilization. We did meet with our state senator, Mark Catlin, last week, along with our state representative, Larry Suckla, to see if they are able to help us. They're gonna see what they can do. They can't, give us money per se, but they can wield their influence. So it was really kind of cool to sit down and talk with them. We also have a meeting with representatives from our federal senator, Jeff Hurd, later this week as well. So
Representative.
is a representative, thank you. So, we're doing what we can to try and find some funding for this project. And so far, we haven't had success. It's mainly because all the grant streams are non-existent, or the timing doesn't work, because we really need to get this project done this season. It's a runoff issue, and it wouldn't sleep very well in the spring. We had a big winter in the runoff, so an update there. I did make mention of this in my report of the homestead retaining wall license agreement. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was, this will come to you for formal approval, so what I'm asking you here is not to approve this, but just to. Let me know I might be on the right track with pursuing a license agreement from Homestead to, allow the town to be in charge of maintenance of the retaining wall. The full disclosure on there, I live in Homestead. I'm also town manager, so I just want that out there, but the thought process is, it's an all community housing neighborhood, and to put the burden of the expense of that maintenance of that retaining wall, which I think you've all seen, which is a significant structure. I just wanted to throw the idea out of potentially the town considering taking on license for that wall, which basically means we would take charge of maintenance of that wall over
County housing authority probably. Do we have what's our sort of guarantee with Joel on that? I think collapses in 3 years. Do we have a 5-year runway or anything on that, or?
have to review the agreement, but I think the warranty is just a year. Yeah.
From the final CO?
Well, the wall's a little different because we don't CO the wall. So I know the warranty is for a year on the properties, so I'd have to review to see that. Again, I'm not looking for action tonight, but I would be like, we're not interested in that. I'd have to take the time to do it. Similar, so just let me know. You can either let me know now or one-on-one, however you'd like, email, all that's fine. To that same extent, we're nearing completion of the project. We're about month and a half out of being done. Now we just started prep for paving, and there's been some very big growing pains today, folks in the neighborhood, adjusting to some of the preliminary work we're doing there. But we're noticing, just a few little things, like I'm taking the approach that we want to hand these over to the new owners as virtually turnkey. So I'm prepared to just for the town to take on some relatively minor additional expenses for things like snow fences to prevent snow shed on driveways and things like that. So garage door openers,
Cut the corner and full garage.
none of the 22 units have electric garage door openers.
Wasn't that in the agreement or something?
The agreement states that he's to provide garages. And I've talked to Jerry about this. We even researched case law, and we don't have anything that compels him to. In the contract.
You have individual morality and ethics.
Yes,
Is what you
yes,
have in between
yes.
parties.
To compel him to do that.
When you
So-
want future work, I would think you take all those things into consideration.
So that is another example. Again, I think we're soliciting bids for that.
But nothing like he didn't do that he was supposed to do.
No. I mean, that one's a little. You could argue one way or the other, but contractually, no. If there's anything he didn't do that he was supposed to do, we would be pursuing him to do that. So we'll give a full assessment of that in the end, but I just wanted to make you aware that I'm planning on doing those things. And then lastly, and please let me know if you disagree with that approach. And I mentioned this, and we talked about this a few times. We prepared an RFP for the parking study, basically just the town of Mount Crescent View parking needs assessment to find what our long-term parking needs up here. And I just want to make sure I have your blessing to do that before we go to RFP and do interviews and whatnot. So if there's any objection to that, again, please let me know and we can share. I don't have it available right now, but some of the scoping associated with that, I'm happy to share so you have a better idea of it before you say one way or the other. Or we could bring the RFP to you for consideration if we really wanted to be that thorough. But if there's any objections to any of those things I mentioned, just let me know. Otherwise, we'll move forward.
I talked to one new resident out there, and They've had issue with like punch list items, which they're punch list items, right? You know, it's a thing that happens. My mom moved into a new place. There were some things that need touching up. Will you clarify the process of what people are supposed to do if they notice certain things and what the remedy is and timeline? Please. Sure. Thanks.
Just to clarify, the 6 proposals, we put out those requests for the holiday lights. What was the budget number? Was it 60K that you requested from all them?
30K.
30.
30K is the budget number.
Fisher Price Christmas light bid?
30K is the number, the town council approved number in the budget.
Yeah.
So I think our plan is to bring the selection as part of the agreement to the council. Have a presentation of the lighting plan. And then the council can go from there.
We'll have the ability at that meeting to enhance the plan if we wanted to.
I think that would be an option for you, yes. And we'll try and come prepared both from a finance perspective and also have the applicant prepared to address that.
I'll have all my marks.
Because some of these we had to scale down to fit that $30,000 number.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry.
Just last piece, Pitchfork first meeting in August?
At this point, the ball is in Pitchfork's court and they have not gotten anything to town staff to review at this point, so. I would say it's a date uncertain at this point, but Jerry has drafted the stuff we've committed to do, shared it with them. They are supposed to submit stuff to us for review, and we just haven't received that yet.
I need to find a new bus stop. I can't even walk my dog through that place now.
What?
Without getting stopped and asked questions.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're gonna pursue it. There's a chance that they just don't pursue it. I don't know, so it might not come back. I don't have any reason to believe.
Meaning
that's
like
the
if they
case.
don't get
If they don't
the
give us what,
vacation of, they don't get the right to do the parking, that they might not be interested in working.
well, what
on
I mean,
some of the
and again,
things.
I have no reason to believe this is the case, but
The
this-
ball hasn't come away from their
if
side.
the
of the
ball
court.
does not come back, then it would never get scheduled.
Yeah, we asked for cost analysis, basic stuff, right? And I think it's still on their side.
I thought it was about like, parking regulation stuff.
That's part of it too, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Carlos? All right, next is clerk's report. Shannon, are you?
Yeah, but for all these, I think Emily's gonna stick around for finance. But any other department questions I can pass along and follow up.
All right, well, let's do attendance at next town council meeting.
I'm gonna be gone for a month.
Nepal?
Yes.
No, not this time, just a road trip.
So it looks like everybody
Canada.
but Belita and Bruce, we don't know.
In Maine. Yeah, sorry.
So that means you missed both August meetings? Is that what the monthly?
Mhm.
I would like to recognize Bruce, who's fighting the fire.
Yeah, totally.
South Rim as well.
Yeah, the reason Bruce isn't here is he got deployed out to the Black.
I didn't know I thought he was just over here.
That's amazing.
Is it volunteer fire?
Volunteer park.
Oh, what?
So, yeah, so. I don't know what our rules are for absence, cause I'm never absent, thanks, Roman, thanks, I need to do that myself, but, if council thought, I think we should exempt Bruce for his reason for missing the meeting.
One thing Tiffany.
Okay, I'll shut up.
I mean, I
He
would
is
say we
slippery
should put
slope.
together a list of qualified things that would
Yeah.
get you an exemption.
Fair enough,
I think to me, I'm more comfortable with that.
I'll retract my statement and we'll just table that for a
And-
future discussion.
Maybe it's like, what are the, I don't know. Repercussions or like, you know, why, like is attendance,
I'm serious.
What
Very
is its
specific.
attendance for?
You
like
get paid or
records?
not. No, if you get paid or if you miss, how's it go? If you miss two.
In one, both in a month.
So you didn't get paid the month that you're in.
So you're not gonna get paid for all.
We're corrected that, I think it's. It might be.
Well, I'm not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I'm happy to
No,
provide.
no,
I
I should have stopped there. I appreciate you saying that. It's something that I meant to say. I'm really happy that Bruce is out there fighting that fire, but you've all brought up points, and so I'm stepping back on that. All right, so we have all the department head reports below that. So does anyone, I'm just gonna lump them all together, does anyone have department head report questions? Roman?
I have a question or questions for Emily for finance.
Hi. I'm gonna apologize in advance if my cat meows like crazy. I'm trying to hide from my husband doing some chores. I didn't think I'd be on this late, so apologize.
I know certain expenses and certain revenue, they come in and go out. Like maybe not on a regular basis, like we're waiting for, let's say, a chunk of some grant money. It's budgeted, but we don't get it until later on, so it looks like we might be behind budget on that. We're creeping more and more to over budget. So we're over budget. Some line items are already like through the entire year's budget right now. This reporting is great, but there doesn't seem to be any checks and balances with us creating a budget and then abiding by it.
Is there anything specific that you can point to for me that you have concerns about? Because I do know that Carl looks at the budget from very much an overall perspective for our revenues and expenditures for the different funds. And as the year goes on, he kind of makes some adjustments for certain funds. You know, there are some things like maintenance and repairs that you can't always expect, and he doesn't prefer to deny repairing equipment for that sort of thing. So is there anything specific that you can kind of point to that I can maybe try and help be a little bit clearer about? Because right now we are down in revenues, but we're also down in expenditures overall.
Right, and you know, these aren't like $1 million overruns or anything, but as we've seen in the past, like when we were almost $500,000 over our budget last year, these things just gradually add up. Even small things like, well, town attorneys were $40,000 over budget to date for administration, 1045, 210. Right above it, 1045, 130, employee benefits. Town center, 1048, 505.
I think the town center one had to do with the doors. They had to make ADA doors, which wasn't, I think, anticipated during the budget season last year.
Automated locks on the doors at Mountaineer Square, and those have required some additional expense to, because one of them's an ADA door, some additional upgrades to that door that were accounted for.
Okay, and other small things like town hall maintenance and supplies, we've already spent our budget for that for the entire year. Same thing with the police department. They've doubled their department supplies for the entire year. So I'm just wondering, and this is more of like maybe evolving into like a council conversation at some point, like what is our expectation other than just saying it's the end of the year, we're $500,000 over budget. We need to move money from one pocket to another. So why are we creating a budget if we're not really adhering to it in the long run?
I have been taking a training with the Government Finance Officers Association regarding budgeting overall, and it does talk a lot about the difference between line item budgeting and kind of doing a more overall budgeting. When you do this kind of minuscule line item budgeting, it does make it very difficult to stay exactly within budget because budgets overall are estimates. And so I think, overall as an estimate, we are under for revenues, which by the way, we did end up getting May's numbers after this report was put in. And we went from being down 7% to down 2%. May did have better numbers than was expected. So our revenues are a little bit closer to breaking even than being super down. So we're hoping that's a positive trend for the summer. But we are down in expenditures overall. And so I think, at the end of the day, we will be in the overall budget that we were expecting to be, but it is an estimate. And if we could 100% predict the future, that would be wonderful. But I think, I understand where you're coming from of trying to be a little precise with some of these things, the budget with the police department. I do know that we added a new employee this year, and with adding a new employee, we did have to outfit him with everything that he needed because he did come without any of his own gear, any of his own weapons and stuff like that. So that is an extra expense that comes with that. And so there's a lot of different things like that. If you are looking for more detailed reporting, as far as the line by line items on a monthly basis, I can talk to Carl about that. But I do, based on GFOA best practices, there is a lot of advice out there to not go on a line by line basis because it does really limit you and unexpected costs do occur during the year.
Yeah, and I'm by no means trying to nitpick every line. The pattern continues as far as us being over budget last year to this year. And, I'm not picking on the police department by any means. I'm just, there's a line item there, and.
Are we over?
I'm
We're
looking
down
at-
in revenues and that is expected, but I don't know that we're fully over budget. I think that our revenue or our expenditures are down. And when, like I said, once we got May's numbers, it actually ends up bringing us to 2%. So I think we are looking okay as far as breaking even overall.
Well, I'll just ask the Women Police Department sort of question and then just ask clarification of revenues over expenditures. The chief sat in here and he said, I don't do anything without asking Carl. And chief had $16,000 in department supplies budgeted for the year. And at some point he went to Carl and said, I'd like to order these things. And Carl said, go for it. Well, that now puts their year-to-date actual budget for that line item at $32,000. So at what point is the conversation, hey, we budgeted for X, we're blowing past that, we need to keep an eye on that, versus we can just make the zeros work at the end of the
You might
year.
have wanted to pick a different example though. Because I think it's probably appropriate to outfit that police officer regardless if they're going over budget.
I'm just wondering what the conversation is.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that line item or any
I
other
think
line
that
item.
was the attempt with these reports too, is to be providing you with this information in the monthly reports. And so that way you guys could have that transparency and see what's going on. And so I think that there is some effort there. And if you would like to have even more transparency, we could maybe talk about filtering that through the finance committee and ramping up the finance committee's involvement. But that would definitely be direction from you guys.
Yeah, and I am in no way trying to nitpick this process as much as I am trying to avoid getting to zeroing this out at the end of the year.
Some of it, if you're looking at revenues versus expenditures, is timing.
And that I opened.
Right, yeah, just an example that doesn't really fall nicely into what you're talking about, but for the police is we still haven't received our payment from the county for services yet, so of course, that's gonna skew the year-to-date numbers, because we've still been spending that money, but we haven't got reimbursed for our portion of that from the county. So just an example, but I've got two at least that you identified, and we'll take a close look: maintenance supplies, police supplies that are already year-to-date. Expenditures exceed the budgeted amount, so let me work with finance and see if we can provide answers to those questions and at least get answers for you and on the process as well.
Yeah, and that's the part I hear you're asking,
Yeah.
is what is the process?
If we're over budget.
I'm about to go over budget. And who do you talk to and how does that happen, right?
Yeah, and to address your comment, like. With that one, with the police department. If Emily's spot on, it was like, hey, we had a new guy or officer, Carl, we need to order all this stuff for this person. I'm sure Carl would say, yeah, go for it. I mean, we've seen that with overtime and benefits. Oh, why are these numbers out of whack? Well, it's out of whack because we added these other people or we changed benefits programs, but there's an explanation. That always happens at the end. It's like, well, the numbers are what they are, you know, and
I would like to let you guys know that there is something that is on my future to-do list. With our ERP software, it does have these modules that make budgeting available to the department heads. So right now, our ERP software, Cassell, has 3 main users, and that is just the finance department. And so they're the only ones that have access to that general ledger information and all of that accounts payable and vendor information. And through this new module, if we go with a more cloud-based software, which is something that will probably be something I look at budgeting for 2026, I can make these certain general ledger codes available to the department heads. And so that way there's a little more transparency with seeing, hey, this is how much was put in your budget for this year. And every time you've submitted an invoice, this is how much it's brought it down. And, right now there is just the kind of that like, hey, Carl, is this good to go? And Carl looks at the overall numbers and he's like, yes, this is good to go. But this will offer a little bit more transparency and for them to kind of like let managers manage their money. I know there will be some pushback from some of the department heads because there is a little bit more of an administrative side to it. And especially for some of our department heads who are in the field, it is really hard sometimes to sit there and be in front of a computer when you've got a million different projects out in the field going on. But that is something, and that's a big process that I am hoping in the future to work with Carl on implementing. But it is a big process. And so I hope that maybe once that's able to be implemented, maybe this will help some of the concerns that you're having, Roman.
Thanks so much.
But I'll follow up. It's mainly process oriented, but we can pull some examples that you bring up.
Yeah, I mean, there's line items, it's like, it's $8 over. Okay, well. Nobody should be thinking about that.
Sure, yeah.
All right, anything else on department head reports? Next is, go ahead.
It's not, I'll wait, good.
Okay, next is town council reports and discussion items. Belita, thank you for your excellent report on the GBRHA. Is there anything you'd like to add to it or?
Mostly just say, the next couple of months are gonna be pretty critical in terms, as I mentioned on the report, we are going to, myself and Steve are gonna remain on the board. There's still gonna be a GBRHA board until the end of the year as the transition is underway. So, I think it'll, be really critical to make sure that we are speaking up for the desires of Mount CB Town Council and Mount CB and what we want the housing authority to provide going forward in like what our areas of.
I feel like that retaining wall is a great example of things that we would, honestly. It would be great to not have to worry about maintenance on the retaining wall for a residential unit. I appreciate that it's affordable housing, and I appreciate that that's what a Valley Housing Authority is meant to do, in my personal opinion. So that is something Like projects like that, where. You know, they're large and they require, you know, decades of maintenance. To sort of. Secure a quality of living concept.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line, right, of when it does have to personal responsibility to that.
Definitely.
A retaining wall is something I think that is huge, an extra and
Yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah, I agree.
Just one thing is the county will have fee for service lists in September is the goal. So, and we did vote to not put an interim executive director in place last week. It's gonna ride with the current staff, and the current staff cannot be just brought in under Melissa and keep things turning. They have to open up those positions through the county or open the job process. So not everybody is guaranteed to keep that team together. There's a really strong urge by the staff and everybody involved to keep that team together. They've really built this core that works incredibly well together. So we should expect that stuff by end of September, and then we would be looking at reviewing a contract with the county in January. Right? Yeah, starting the new year.
Fee for service, some kind of
Yeah.
agreement, yeah. And be an IGA still. So,
Yeah.
And that's effectively when the county housing authority will make their pitch to us.
Is September. Yeah. That's what Melissa said in the last meeting. That's. That's it right now. This minute? Yes.
Yeah, the next handful of months is really gonna be like putting all the pieces together of how the county is going to manage everything that the Valley Housing Authority was managing. And one thing that was expressed, I don't know if I put this in here, I think I did, was like that the intent, that the expectation is to just make sure current services are going to be managed and, you know, that the county can be responsible. Current services, that there's places for everything to go. And there's really no talk of like expansion or growth or innovation yet, you know, until all of those existing programs are like reestablished, so to speak, and stable. So.
So is anything continuing with what was just happening? Like,
Yeah,
All operations are still, the day-to-day that Skylar's doing with deed restricted monitoring is the exact same. He's still gonna be putting together his monthly reports with the number of violations, number of people contacted, areas of he'll still be submitting those monthly until the end of the year too.
so basically what's in place now is
Yep.
moving forward. There's just nothing new on the horizon because there's no one to look for those new things and move the parts around.
I think more they wanna make sure that they have kind of like, I feel like how Melissa was strategically approaching the GB RHA to begin with was, okay, let's make sure we can actually take responsibility for the things that we're supposed to be doing. And then we can talk about strategy going forward. So that's still like the same mindset right now is let's make sure we can take responsibility for the things that we're currently doing. And have a transition plan that we all believe in for the county. Or other places if that is what is deemed to be more appropriate, but, and so there's not a whole lot of conversation around new things yet.
Where's that?
The last piece, if you guys don't know who Alex Keloff is, I know we're a little premature going into 2026, but Alex Keloff has declared he's running against Jeff Hurd in District 3. He's a co-founder of Armada Skis. He has a deep, rich business experience and family history on the Western Slope. And I encourage everybody to sign up for his emails and, you know, let's see what we can do. But we have a legit candidate, is I guess my point.
I have one other town council discussion item, but are there any other reports to share?
Yeah, let's get through reports.
Great.
So anything else for Valida, and I guess also Steve on GVRHA? Any other counselors have reports?
I emailed mine out to everybody. I don't know if anybody saw it.
Yes, thank you, Roman. Anybody have questions for Roman on his report? Anything you want to add, Roman?
No, federal funding stuff, you know, a little up in the area.
Yeah. All right, do you have a discussion item, Lita?
Yeah, I just wanted to check back in on our housing and short-term rental strategy session that we were talking about having in the fall. Have you guys, yeah,
You know, I talked about that last week. I think we're still looking for guidance from this group. We doing two separate ones, or are we gonna blend these?
we should.
Let's make it an agenda item.
Yeah, I think.
We're gonna do it in August.
That's unfortunately how these things go.
Yeah, make good decisions.
Try and put it on August. Fifth.
Any other discussion items?
Even if I am not here for the council meetings, I'm definitely happy to assist with like preparation for it, or like if there's development.
I'll ask Neil to reach out to you in advance to just get your thoughts on it, to help with that discussion on
Cool.
the fifth, yeah.
Anyone else? One last thing for me. I sent you all 2 emails. The first one was about our town manager evaluation. And I included a document that just has some stray words in there from a previous one. So the second one you got is just a cleaner version of the same thing. So use the second one you got. And then as I mentioned in my email, you know, it's kind of we've gone back and forth. The paper form is not like super robust or whatever, but I think it's just one part of the evaluation. And so we all do the paper form, but then I think the real meat of it comes when we just have a discussion with you, Carlos. And so the paper form is not the only thing, it's just a starting point. And then we sit down with Carlos, have a face-to-face with him, discuss his performance. And so that's the other.
And the paper form is use it or not, you know, it's not, you're not obligated to use that under any sense, but if you want to, you can. Or if use a different one, you know, that's just one we've used in my 2 years.
Yep.
Here, so.
Yep.
That's not a requirement set in stone type of document to use, so.
It's probably not too late, but it's too much for this round, but I'd like to strive for a little bit more discretion with how we apply the surveys and evaluations to others in the town. There was just, I think, a little too much sort of lack of anonymity, and, you know, some people were airing certain things on behalf of survey participants that I didn't think, I thought could be a little bit more clean.
You mean like people knowing the author of the evaluation?
Yeah, and like kind of calling their name out, and, you know, it's like, if it wasn't known, it's kind of icky.
Yeah. Well, I'll certainly, for this, point taken, for this round, I could certainly. And I think that's how Janet did it in the past, was compile those, right? Kind of compile the surveys.
Yeah, I'll double check, what I remember is getting maybe there was a staff one and a council one that was compiled.
Yeah.
With averages and whatnot, and then a compiled comments list. Nothing was received individualized, it was all.
And so you're talking more staff?
Yeah.
Cause like anonymity for us.
No,
Isn't really.
no, I'm just trying to be sensitive to staff, because,
Yeah.
you know, it's. We're going through a process with Mountain Express to improve the system we have, and I think it just can be a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
To honor the effort that a staff member is putting forth to do their part.
Yeah, totally. Yep. All right,
We'll be done.
all those in favor? Thanks, everybody.
Should we target August 19th for that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Have a good night, everyone.
See you next.
See you, bro. You get to hear
Yeah.
We haven't done this.
Yeah, dude, I'm like.
It's like federal, it's like if his parents, his immediate family isn't dying, he should be here. Like, that's the way it goes.
Age 21, so I win.
And worked, and then.
That's like,
Worked.
You know, Dawson's,
And then.
one of his complaints was, we're in the middle of our big.
Right here, and then
It's like,
here we
yeah,
are.
that's why you report.
These are 3 days,
with
Bobby.
You're supposed to, but it's.
Literally, that's how we made it.
Yeah, I think I have friends.
And you wanna end the, I got a couple jokes, hold on.
This is like the week I have the most things that you on my.